Welcome everybody to High and Low, a podcast about talking picture shows.
We do films that are corny, some that are horny, some that win Academy Award.
Doing all kind of movies from all kinds of genres, serving hot cakes like plates of lasagna.
Before we get going, a warning to you, you might hear some talk that's a little blue.
We sometimes cuss and we sometimes curse. We like to do it off the cuff and don't rehearse.
Now, if this sounds like your kind of show,
Tune in,
Drop out,
this is High and Low.
Well,
Mummy.
hello, Mummy. Well, welcome, fellow Americans, to the High and Low Election Day special. My heart tells me that this is a podcast about the intersection of both high art and low art. But the facts and the evidence tell me that's not entirely true. Mostly, we just talk shit at length about two loosely connected movies. Today, we're saluting two of the greatest Republican presidents of all time, Abraham Lincoln and Ronald Wilson Reagan. Me. Welcome back, listeners. We're here to talk now about Reagan.
Well,
the widely derided, but by critics, but audiences who've seen it for some reason love it.
I went through so many 5-star reviews for this movie, and
Well, you know,
like half of them are like, "This is my favorite movie. This is my favorite movie now. I
Yeah.
saw this movie once, and it's my favorite movie."
well, it's
I don't want to say too much, but this might be my favorite movie of the year.
I think it's a pretty clear line in the sand. If you're a patriot, you like this movie, and if you're a
commie.
a stinko pinko,
Yeah.
you don't like this movie.
I just wish this movie didn't skirt around the issue of what Reagan thought about communism, and I wish it just
Yeah.
kind of had more of an authorial voice.
Yeah, you know what? This movie was 2 shades of gray for me. I needed a little more black and white. I needed my mind made up for me a little more.
Yeah.
This was a little ambiguous.
If I had to pick any nits, that's about it, though.
I don't think it sucked his cock hard enough.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, God.
in Nancy's honor, we should have been glazing him even harder than this
man.
movie did, because he's just so great. He's
Talk
the greatest.
about a movie that is totally uninterested in being critical of its subject at all, like in any way, shape, or form.
But in the way that it presents the facts, this is where it becomes an unintentional comedy
Yeah.
for me, and it's fucking hysterical. I was laughing and clapping at almost every scene in this movie because
Oh yeah,
This is
the
the
way
best
it
movie. It's the best movie we've ever done.
yeah.
it's the funniest movie I think we've ever done, because the way it presents these events, and I'm like, are you fucking serious? They just show that, and then we're expected to think he's the good guy. And
Yeah.
it's like they're actually treating him as some kind of saint, and it's like,
It's kind of hilarious.
what the fuck are we doing here?
Well, he wasn't afraid to tell people how it was and how it should be. Mm-hmm. And it's about time we had a movie that was honest. Mm-hmm. And told you things that the liberals might not want you to hear.
But he'd do it with his folksy wisdom too. There's actually is a lot of comparisons you can draw between this and Lincoln.
If you want to be a
absolutely.
good president, you need
Film-wise.
to be able to settle a room down. You need to have some good jokes. Every
Yeah.
time we cut into Reagan talking to people in a circle, he's in the middle of telling the funniest joke they've ever heard in their life.
Yeah, and that's a big theme in this movie, just like it is with Lincoln, is there'll be some tense situations, and he tells a little witty rejoinder or a little story, or he just kind of wins everybody over, and then everybody just like looks at him with the most love and admiration. If somebody ever looked at me with that love and admiration, I don't think my own mother has ever loved me as much as people love Ronald Reagan in this movie, and my mother loves me, dude.
I'd be very uncomfortable if people were admiring me the way they were admiring
So
Reagan.
even KGB agent Petrovich, played by John Voight, is maybe my favorite character in the history of movies.
Only he knew how
Sit down, young
dangerous.
comrade. I'll tell you about the lifeguard.
So
Well, I gotta say, so while we're talking about this, I couldn't watch this movie without thinking of that bit from The Simpsons where Lenny's teaching a tobacco spitting class, and Homer's like, "I just wish they'd look at me like Lenny," and everybody's just drooling out of their mouth and just staring doe-eyed at this guy, and that's the way everybody, not just people who are directly around him.
Yeah.
If you hear Reagan's voice on the radio, you stop what you're doing and you just kind of turn into a drooling pile of goop because you love this man so much.
Yeah, even Brezhnev is looking at him with like a fucking girl at front row at a Michael Jackson concert in 1983.
How are we going to stop this Reagan?
Like, people will just be walking on the street past department stores that have the TV display in their windows, and they'll just stop and turn to watch if Reagan's giving a speech on there. It's nuts.
And they'll cheer and high five.
Yeah.
Fucking people will just like turn around and give the person next to them a blowjob after this guy gives a speech.
In honor of Nancy.
No, Nancy.
I was talking to some friends last night at a little party there. Our mutual friend Fred, I told him that we were covering this movie, and he's like, you know about Nancy, right? Are you guys going to talk about Nancy? I'm like, I know what you're saying. We're sitting there in mixed company, right? And he's like, just quietly nudging me. He's like, huh? The throat goat? I'm like, yeah, we know about the throat goat thing, Fred. Don't worry, we're going to talk about it.
Wow. I did not know about this.
I don't know if I knew about it. I always thought we were just making jokes.
Really?
Yeah.
She was actually a gifted...
She was a goat with the throat?
Wow.
I mean, this was a couple years back. This got all over the internet because people had talked about it. There was all kinds of evidence and documents, and I don't know. There's documents.
Redacted.
You got blue dresses, you got red dresses, you got all the dresses.
All the documents have been declassified. Nancy Reagan gave the best head, and she gave it to everybody in Hollywood.
Wow.
Wow. Good for her.
Yeah, no, not knocking her at all. We're praising her.
Yeah.
We stand a throat goat.
That's how she won a stud like Reagan.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I just have one test. If I'm going to take your name off this list, Nancy Pants.
Here's a trailer hitch, Nance. If you can suck the chrome off it, you can be my wife.
Comes back, it's just a nub.
You're the goat.
The best goat
Wow.
since Black Phillip. So this movie's directed by, there's an interesting connection here. Directed by Sean McNamara. Now, if that main name means nothing to you, of course it doesn't.
We're
Why
not
would it?
surprised.
He's not fucking Steven Spielberg. This guy's known for doing a lot of kids' movies, Disney-type stuff. The Even Stevens movie for Shia LaBeouf connection there. Aliens Stole My Homework. And most notably, Three Ninjas, High Noon at Mega Mountain.
That was the one with Hulk Hogan, yeah?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
And that's also the one that the director of Pulgasari co-made with him. So that South Korean guy who was captured by Kim Jong-il and forced to make a North Korean propaganda movie, escaped to the United States to make this movie with Sean McNamara, with Hulk Hogan. I mean, reality really is stranger than fiction, isn't it, folks?
It's true.
What a life.
I know. And now he's gone on to make my favorite film of 2024, Reagan.
It is kind of crazy because with the communist ties, like, you would have to think the guy who made Pulgasari was probably pretty anti-communist after coming out of North Korea.
Oh, I imagine so.
Oh, well, he worked with Sean McNamara back in the early 90s before America crumbled under the Obamas.
Clinton destroyed America by balancing the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
I mean,
surprised
Clinton, by all accounts, was very much a Reaganite president. I mean, he was the first Democrat to take policies even further to the right than Reagan did.
Ronald Reagan really changed the political landscape. Like,
Yes.
say what you want about his policies, but he changed the game during his presidency.
He moved the Overton window so far to the right.
We're still... Well, it's gotten worse, but we're still...
It's not gone any further left.
It was
it's far beyond.
the reign of the neo-libs from him on out.
Yes.
Like,
and, you know, he's ranked among the best presidents ever, frequently.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can't argue with some of his sweeping changes, reforms, how popular he was in elections. I mean, policy-wise, I think it's been disastrous, and time is only showing that more and more. But
yeah.
He is a great
as
man
a
in
president.
history. Like, he is gonna go down in all the books because he
great
in the sense of the
being
the size
very
of
large.
his impact. Yeah.
I mean, trickle-down economics is still one of the central issues.
Oh, no. It's the best thing ever. Didn't you hear him explain it in his meeting?
Yeah, central issue meaning it's the best thing ever.
I mean, we have so much to cover in this movie. We should get through it. But I mean, it's written by Howard Klausner, but it's based also on a book like the Lincoln movie was. This book is called The Crusader, Ronald Reagan and the Fall of Communism. by Paul Kangor. Do you have a copy of this one, Mitch?
I don't. I should get it, though, because I'm sure it's probably a nuanced take with a title like that.
I might check and see if they have a copy at the library, because I'm obsessed.
And that's what Petrovich keeps referring to Reagan as. The Crusader. He carried on with his crusade.
This was the time of Reagan, the Crusader.
Yeah.
Only I knew he would come to this.
So it starts. We get a million Windows 98 ass looking fake production cards. There's Collective. It looks like a Universal logo for a few seconds. I was like, oh, is this Universal? No, it's Collective. It's so off-brand. And then we get MJM pictures. Not MGM. No. There's no line.
It's really kind of playing with that looks vaguely familiar audience where they think it's trying to get people who, well, that's pretty similar.
We have MGM at home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the we have MGM at home audience for sure.
Aloe Productions, American Troubadours, and Voltage Pictures. And all of these things look like graphics from Half-Life 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I love these shitty fucking production cards.
So you're in for a treat.
Yeah. So this movie opens like most biopics do in the middle of the story at some pivotal moment that they have to contrive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
I really could have done with them just jumping to the beginning because
Yeah.
he's about to give some speech in 1981.
Yeah, at the Hilton Hotel in Washington, D.C. And he said to his wife, "What do you mean change the baby? I'm a ball player. That's not my line of work." And she turned around with her hands on her hips and she communicated. "Look, Buster, you lay the diaper out like a diamond. You put the second base on home plate. Put the baby's bottom on the pitcher's mound. Hook up first and third. Slide home underneath. And if it starts to rain, the game ain't called. You start all over again." So I'm going to communicate. Now I know we can't make things right overnight, but we can make them right. Our destiny's not our fate. It is our choice. You and your forebears helped build this nation. So let us rebuild it.
Bravo!
Yeah. So 90% of that was just an old joke.
Yeah.
That old farmers tell.
And you can see that, like, much like Lincoln, Reagan is a great orator, one of history's great orators,
Yeah.
and he can just, like, win a room over with his folksy wisdom and his jokes.
Yeah.
And there's panties. They're throwing panties on stage. They're throwing their brassieres on stage because it was one of the greatest speeches that was ever given. I think.
and he gives a million of them in this movie.
Yeah.
And
Listeners,
every
you got 'em
single
all.
one's a
Each
showstopper.
one. And he breaks the record for greatest speech again and again, and he's just breaking his own record. It's amazing.
Yeah. So
Mr. Reagan's the best.
yeah, there's some guys that be like, "Oh man, remember when you fought with Herr Sorrell?" He's like, "Yeah, he was working with the Soviets trying to infiltrate Hollywood through the unions."
Old sorry Sorrel.
Sorry, we called him sorry as hell after that. Everybody's like, "Wow, Ronnie,
What a man.
I can't
really
believe it.
busted that union from inside."
Yeah.
You really did great job being a fucking fed
Yeah.
on a fucking workers union.
You're
to
a
make
great
sure painters
snitch.
don't get health insurance.
Yeah.
You're a fucking hero. So his addled narration that he's leaving the hotel and he's like, "My mother used to say, everything is all a part of the divine plan." And that's when a shooter pops out
Yeah.
and fucking fires at Ronnie.
This is sort
I
of
bet you-
like the framing part of the movie.
It's
Yeah.
and to me it's useless
It's
because
stupid.
it's right in the middle of the story and you come back but it's real just like, I bet you're wondering how I got into this situation.
Yeah, totally.
Well, we got to start at the beginning.
By the beginning, I mean 40 years in the future in in Russia.
Yeah.
You're probably wondering if I survived this.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to have two framing devices. For
Yeah. It's the movies. It's a very confused movie in some regards.
It's how we say in Russia, a piece of shit script.
Yeah. Because it's almost like it's trying to do the Lincoln thing and have like a focused, like, okay, we'll center it around, okay, the shooting, that'll be our anchor that anchors this whole movie together. And then it's also trying to be the beat for beat, like we're covering every beat in this guy's life movie.
So they start with this shooting and then they, jump back in time. But the thing is, this shooting is a footnote on everything else the movie's giving you. Like, if it kind of culminated in this, or if like it was him getting ready to give the big speech at the end.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about the shooting and then using it as some sort of narrative thrust for his life or meaning it has meaning. I mean, he talks about it being a divine plan. Well, His fucking press secretary got shot in the head and died of his injuries.
Yeah.
Was that part of God's plan? How did that help you, fucking Ronnie? And something else the movie fails to fucking mention is that John Hinckley Jr., that shooter, he was not a fucking communist.
No.
He was not a left wing. He wanted to get Jodie Foster's attention.
Yeah.
He was just a mentally ill fucking wacko who was obsessed with a celebrity.
Because, like,
But the movie does not fucking want... It just wants you to think that he was so brave in fighting communists and unions
That someone
that's
came
why
for
somebody...
him.
Yeah.
The cowards on the left took a shot at me.
I mean, that's really the crux of this movie. That's the viewpoint of this movie, is that Reagan was the stalwart warrior against communism, and, you know, he was like the last defense, America's last defense.
The flood of communism is on the rise, and Reagan is the only rock standing in its
Yeah.
way, keeping the torrid waters from...
And, you know,
Drowning
he's
the
a
people.
folksy guy who makes jokes, but he'll stand firm.
He'll say "niet."
He'll say "niet."
Mr. Gorbachev.
Niet.
Yet.
Niet. That's totally how he that's like what he pounds off to in the shower.
Be
I'll
careful.
tell him, "Niet. Niet."
He's an actor. You know what? Only an actor would be able to stare Gorbachev in the eye and say that.
Oh, that. The acting thing and the lifeguard thing are just...
It's like Team America.
It is exactly Team America.
So we get our
He's using his acting. We'll get to that.
yes, yeah. So we get a glimpse of Reagan while this is all going on, of course, and his makeup is. When I was watching it at first, it kind of really took me off guard. It was like, if you've ever spent time and gone to know like somebody with a severe deformity or something like that, at first it can kind of unsettle you. But after you get to know them a bit more, you just get used to it. Like, that's their face. And that's how I felt looking at Dennis Quaid in this movie, where it's like, good God. And then
He is hideous.
Yeah.
Especially even compared to Reagan himself. I mean, who is, I guess, a pretty handsome guy. But,
he was a Hollywood,
Yeah.
and
good-looking
Quaid
Hollywood
in his
guy.
time was fairly handsome too, but he has this puffed out face. He looks like shit, man.
And it doesn't help that he's, again, playing Reagan through Reagan's entire life. So he's like young Reagan. Like, he's like Reagan in the 40s.
Yeah, he plays Reagan in like his
30s or 40s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have like a guy in his early 20s who plays.
They didn't go full the Irishman and de-age
No.
him or anything like that. Honestly, the lighting and everything else in this movie isn't doing him any favors either. This movie just looks bad. It's all just super blown out and kind of shiny looking. And
It's hideous.
Very
He's
digital
hideous.
looking.
And I think Quaid, for his part, is actually pretty good in
Me
the
too.
movie.
I think I buy, again, he's no Daniel Day-Lewis, but I totally buy him as Reagan, and he gets
Yeah.
the physicality, his like way of speaking's like good. Like, he does a
his-
good job with it.
His facial expressions and everything, the way he moves his body around, he really inhabits Reagan in this role.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not even in the same world as Daniel Day-Lewis and what he's doing. But
No.
I mean,
Like, he comes across at times, him and Nancy, they have a very cheesy relationship. They're very cheesy
Nancy
people.
Pants?
But you get the impression that, like, in real life, Reagan probably was kind of a cheesy guy.
Yeah. But so Lincoln takes place, it's grounded in a very real world, and great care has been put into bringing this world to life. And Reagan is like a blown out cartoon.
Yeah.
Where everything is just hyper elevated.
The tone is so confused. At times, it reminded me of, like, Baz Luhrmann's Elvis. Like,
Sure,
going for that
just like
kind
crazy
of thing.
flashy shit
Yeah.
flying at you from every which way. But
Like, oh, Reagan acting. Oh, Reagan doing a commercial. Like, it had that
Baz
energy.
Luhrmann knows how to light his movies.
yeah, he knows how to
Yes.
make things look
Move
good.
the camera.
Yeah.
But totally, there is so much random shit happening. And
Like, it felt like it was trying to copy a few things. Like, there's scenes where it feels like it's trying to be The Aviator. There's feels where it's...
I got like a Goodfellas bit of vibe from one scene.
It doesn't really have its own identity, it felt like. And that's why it's very tonally confused, which was throwing me off for the first bit of this movie.
It's made by people who have no brains.
It's like made by people who have seen a movie.
Yeah.
They're aware of what a
bunch of
Martin Scorsese movie looks like, but they
Yeah.
have no talent.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's a large ensemble cast, and some of them are doing some okay work here, and many of them are not. But
But there's a lot of names out here. There's a lot of names that you would recognize from movies your mom or dad might have rented.
Yeah. Maybe
Things
movies.
like that.
ask your moms and dad.
Yeah.
So now we get to Moscow. present day.
Oh, so before that, we get the credits, which
okay.
really
God.
tell you that communism, I don't know, there's a lot of pro-communist imagery flying at you. You see these great, like, Russian planes flying overhead and the communist
We're led to
flag.
believe that America was really under threat from communism as an ideology.
This is
which
an insane opening credit
this-
scene.
like, we have to accept that as gospel, or else the rest of this movie makes no sense or is a farce. Like, that's just how it opens in the credits.
Yeah, it's really in your face with all of this shit. Hammers and sickles every which way.
It's showing you Reagan's viewpoint, I think, which is that communism is a virus that is spreading out of control. And the opening credit sequence ends with nuclear Armageddon. A nuclear bomb goes off. This is Reagan's worst nightmare. It's him, like, it's showing like Fidel Castro like yelling in the background, going like ah, la, la, la. It's showing like all the Russian communist figures. It's
Cuban
like,
Missile Crisis.
oh, there's Lenin. It's oh god.
Yeah, it's just his fucking senile fever dreams.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's a pretty bold way to open a movie.
Yeah, it's kind of like how Oppenheimer
Maybe it
saw
is more
like
Scorsese
you
than
know,
I thought.
in a dream, Oppenheimer sees the destructive potential of the atom. This is like Reagan's version of that, where he's like, the opening credits are his dream of communism spreading and taking the world over.
Exactly, it is like Oppenheimer.
This is my
But
mission.
If Oppenheimer were a fucking moron who
yeah,
can't think,
he's brain dead. And like these whole first two scenes, they have the feel of a spy thriller to me from that opening credits. This very intense, dramatic opening credits to this Russia
Yeah, like
scene.
what are we watching like 3 Days of the Condor or
Yeah.
something like that? Is this going to be some political intrigue?
It's Black Widow, Russian spy drama.
yeah, like a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
This is like a Marvel movie. The heroes and villains are very black and white, and god damn it, these heroes are heroes, aren't they?
Yeah, pretty much.
Buzzard's guts, they're heroes, they're men.
And I will have you selling
Blizzard
flip
goods.
labs and flub flams and
So, Moscow, present day. There's a Russian politician named, it's a fictional characters, I believe, Andrei Novikov. He arrives at the home of former KGB agent Viktor Petrovich, played by John fucking Voight.
The role he was born to play. It perfectly aligns with his political ideology, and he gets to do a wackadoo accent.
He's an insane person. And he just can't stop glazing Ronald Reagan, this former KGB agent who's so moved and swayed by the idea of freedom.
yeah,
That's the whole crux of the movie.
Novikov, he's just, thank you for seeing me, comrade. John was a comrade. We don't use that word much anymore. And they're here to talk about how the Soviet Union fell, right? Or what happened? What happened to us? We used to be so
Yeah.
great.
You'd think Novikov would know.
Exactly, yeah. This guy doesn't really give him anything new. He's just reveals that he has a very unhealthy infatuation with Ronald Reagan.
yeah.
Infatuation is the, yeah.
Yeah, it just so happens that Petrovic, John Voight's character, he's just like, he's there for every important moment in Russia. Like, he's always standing at the side of Brezhnev, Gorbachev, every, like, president that's comes through Russia. For some reason, this John Voight is just in the room with them watching, like,
Yeah.
all of history unfold as
He's
it's
just
happening.
standing there like Forrest Gump. Just
Yeah.
fucking drool
Just a
hanging down.
witness to
100%
history.
like Forrest Gump.
Dead-eyed stares. He's the Russian Forrest Gump.
I really have to pee.
And he's
Brezhnev.
he's kind of this movie's Cassandra because he's the only one who knew Reagan was going to become this political force in America. And
Yeah, he'd been watching him, I guess, since he was a kid.
Yeah, I think so. I think he started watching him in Hollywood or something like that.
He's
and then
like,
he did
this
a lot
man
of
will
research.
destroy communism. How will we be evil if this man exists?
yeah,
Comrade, why do you keep waving around this man in his swimming trunks?
yeah.
He's always got the pictures of him in his swimming trunks.
He's like, we had an evil plan to destroy Hollywood by infiltrating it with communists, but Reagan.
Wouldn't you know, Reagan was there again. Everywhere I look, the Crusader is one step in front of me.
So Petrovich, he details, and yes, he is the narrator of the movie.
So, it's,
Oh my God.
I love that they're couching it. And it's like, even communists, even like the sworn enemy of Ronald Reagan, have to respect this man so much that they're gonna tell their life story. He's the story of their defeat. He's the lesson they need to learn.
Yeah.
And just right off the bat, in general in movies, voiceover narration is often so unnecessary. Like it often just detracts from the movie.
Reagan is the type of movie where they
adds
show
so
you
much.
That's what
something.
it adds.
They tell you what they're showing you, and then they show it to you again.
Yeah.
But then they tell you one more time just to make sure you really get the
To
picture.
really
Yeah,
reinforce
we
it.
talked about how Lincoln respects its audience. This movie holds your fucking hand.
Yeah.
It talks to you like you're a fourth
And
grader.
not only does it hold your hand, and then when it notices that you're kind of dawdling, it'll kind of turn around and then like get your hand like it's like walking with a toddler, where it's like, oh shit, you know, they're looking
like,
at.
they're talking about nuclear
Yeah.
war. What does that mean? Well, we better show them what nuclear war would mean, or else they're not going to know.
Man, this
mushroom
movie,
clouds.
like, not only does this movie hold your hand, it also gaslights you. It repeated. I felt gaslit after watching this.
Totally.
Well, yeah, it's like I don't think that's how it happened. That's, I guess that's
like,
what the movie.
Wait, that's not what that scene means. Wait,
That's not what it means at all. So Reagan, Petrovich, he says Reagan grew up in Illinois in the 1920s. We see his father, Jack, who was an alcoholic, and his mother, Nell. So obviously Jack is an Irish man. He's got the Irish accent. He's played here by Justin fucking Chatwin.
alum,
yeah.
Dragon Ball Evolution alum.
Goku from Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he could do better, but
I like Justin Chatwin. I mean, he's doing his best
likable.
Irish brogue here.
Yeah. It's not entirely convincing,
No,
but
he's Canadian.
It's okay.
And he's not a Republican either. He's by all accounts, a decent guy. But Nell, his mother, she's like, maybe you should be a Christian. And this movie's very much like, oh, those are Catholics. Look at those disgusting scum.
Yeah.
yeah.
And so she encourages him to become a born-again Christian.
Maybe you
And
should
that's-
go meet Kevin Sorbo in the river.
Yeah, he is Irish, Reagan. That's kind of an interesting point because, you know, those dirty Irish. Some people said they would never get the presidency until Kennedy got it.
Yeah.
Irish Catholic. Still one of the only Catholic
Biden.
presidents.
Biden was Catholic.
Is he? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. There's only been one or two or three.
Fuck if I can really even
I
tell the
think that's
difference,
all of
but I
them.
guess it's a big deal to
Yeah,
some people.
it's a big different one.
Well, to evangelicals,
Yeah.
it's a big deal. So this guy was
Or like
born again evangelical, and that was his whole identity.
Yeah.
And don't you forget it. Don't worry,
Radicalized.
it won't let you
Yeah.
forget it.
It's like,
Yeah,
that's
he's-
my personality,
This
Nancy.
this man is on a crusade from God, and you better stand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a scene at one point where he's starting to date Nancy, and she's like, "What are you into?" And he's just like, "Well, I like golf and I like church." It's like that's pretty much the extent of Reagan.
So Petrovich, he hands Brezhnev, played by Robert Davi.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Whoa!
The bad guy from License to Kill.
Just waiting on Eric Trump to return his tweets in between scenes here.
I did not
I'm sure
recognize
he's
that.
still waiting for a cabinet appointment from Donald Trump.
Robert Davi's he's hovering over his Facebook like Mark Zuckerberg at the end of The Social Network, just like refresh, refresh. Eric Trump's gonna accept my friend request.
Kamala Harris is a fucking pig. She's a fucking pig. She's a traitor. They're not real Americans.
Screaming in his car.
Kamala.
Mr. Davi, your little hat's gone askew. You need
That's
to fix
how
your fedora.
upset I am. Yeah, he could be Secretary of TV in
The
Trump
craters in his
administration.
face just get deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
They turn red when he's angry.
He's flaring his face craters. You can tell he's upset.
He looks like a fucking Cenobite. He's
Yeah, he's just a big puffy mess. But he's, again, this is a dream project, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's a very important piece of cinema, and he's happy to be a part of it.
yeah. That's the thing with this movie is there's the all stars of psychotic Hollywood Republicans who are in this, and then there's just normal actors
Yeah.
who just are here for a paycheck.
Yeah. Then there's the ones
And
who
honestly,
are,
the normal actors are kind of doing a better job.
yeah.
Yeah,
lot
for
of
the most
times.
part. I mean, we don't get James Woods in this movie. He's the
Oh.
other big Hollywood
Yeah,
psycho.
what was he doing?
That's a massive missing piece.
I'm
that
surprised.
James Woods should be in this movie.
And he's better than Voight and Davi.
Yeah. He should be in the cabinet. He should be in
Academy
But the- you know
Award
what?
winner 2023, James Woods,
What did he win for?
as an
yeah.
executive producer on Oppenheimer.
Oh, right,
That's
yeah.
right. Snuck in.
He
through
would have
the
been a
back
better
door.
preacher instead of Kevin Sorbo.
Yeah.
That's where I would have
Kevin
put him.
Sorbo, I see him and I'm like, Am I watching TV? This
Yeah,
is like TV
yeah.
movie.
It's funny when I see Kevin Sorbo, that immediately like lowers the quality of a movie to me. I'm like, oh, this is like something cheap, something.
That's not a Hollywood star.
No,
Yeah, you're just waiting for a commercial break to cut in.
No, he sucks fucking dick.
He's so
Yeah.
flat and just self-righteous in what he's doing.
Ugh, I hate him. So yeah, Petrovich has got the file on very young Reagan. He's like, I've been warning you about this man for many years.
Comrade, quit showing me the pictures. I need plausible deniability. Plausible deniability, comrade.
History is never about where, when, why, or how. It always comes down to the who. And I was assigned the Crusader. It became my obsession. So now the movie leads us to believe that he was the biggest and most important star in Hollywood. He was most important in Hollywood. We see him in a bunch of films with Jane Wyman, who's played here by Mina Suvari.
Yeah, she hasn't been on, but we've had her American Beauty co-star on a couple times.
Yeah, Kevin Spacey or Thora Birch.
Thora Birch.
Yeah.
We've yet to have Kevin Spacey on the pod.
I'm
We brought him up on the
overdue.
last episode.
We bring him up on most episodes.
probably because we're monsters.
We love to remind you of Mr. Spacey.
You always love to talk about me, don't you?
Let me be frank.
Even though I'm gone from the limelight, you can't erase me from your minds, can you?
Why is Spacey not in this movie too? Come
don't
on,
know.
Be
guys.
good.
Is he even? Is
coulda
he,
had
is he
him.
still too hot for even this movie to pick up?
I think maybe
Yeah,
he would have made a great Brezhnev
Yeah.
or Gorbachev. Oh,
you'd think this movie could get away with putting a Spacey in there. Give him his chance.
Giving Kevin Spacey a chance.
space for Spacey.
You know-
give him some space, a safe space.
If Mel Gibson can be in movies now, then Kevin Spacey can be in a
Mel
movie.
Gibson was nominated for an Academy Award after he got out of movie jail.
There you go.
You fucking whore!
What?
Man. That was the only time Mel Gibson wasn't acting.
Yeah.
Ironically.
You go to the hot tub. You need to suck my dick.
God,
He's just pure in.
He's a monster.
this movie would be better if Mel Gibson directed it, though.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
It'd be way more unhinged, but its
Yeah.
message would be clear.
And it would probably be like a little more like the lighting would be better and stuff if he directed it.
The production value would be 10 times.
It would actually be harder to take because it would be a more effective propaganda piece.
Yeah,
Point
it
me
would
to
be
a light source
disturbing.
in this movie. Point me to where a light source is, because they're
Yeah.
fucking coming from everywhere. It's shiny. I don't know what's going on.
It looks like a fucking cheap ass TV movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Jump to the club and we get a Scott Stapp close up jump scare. The lead singer of Creed going, "Would you like to swing on a star? Carry moonbeams home in a jar."
the club is hopping.
If you didn't think that was great how I sung it, I don't care because I'm 10 times better than Scott Stapp is at singing Sinatra.
Yeah.
He is fucking terrible.
This whole movie is just filled with people. It's like, oh my God, I forgot about that person.
Like,
I haven't
in
thought
any-
about him in a while.
In any movie, that should be a joke. Having Scott Stapp badly singing Frank Sinatra. and
This movie
playing-
takes it so seriously.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's no irony in this movie.
Even
And
though-
so you're just left like wondering what to think. Being gaslit. Like what Mitch said.
Yeah. Yeah, there are times that, like up to this point in the movie, as I'm watching it, I don't know. I haven't really locked into the tone of the movie yet, and I haven't really read much about this movie, so I don't know what to expect. So,
Oh, I read a bunch and I was expecting the best movie I've ever seen in my life.
which you
And
got?
you found it.
Yeah.
So we see he's runs with Jane Wyman and others, and there's a stupid, crazy leftist named Dalton Trumbo.
Did you guys see the Trumbo movie?
No,
Yeah, it wasn't very good.
yeah, but he did have maybe ties to the Communist Party.
I think
or
he
something.
was a communist.
He was a union organizer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so while this debate is going on, this kind of looks like a rip-off Goodfellas shot where they're going around the table and the camera's just whizzing around every which way. It's
Oh
just
yeah.
spiraling in circles, but it's way too fast. And I don't know if maybe the director's trying to be a little cheeky and be like, isn't this a crazy thing to think of? Or maybe he's just incompetent and he doesn't know how to make a conversation seem coherent.
I don't think he can think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take 2. Everything's take 1.
Yeah. So Trumbo implies, with his stupid, crazy ways, he says the American dream doesn't apply to everybody equally. Can you imagine? What a fucking jerk off, huh?
Well, I don't think I like it. That man critiquing America.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Why don't we
Come
go-
on, Jane. Why don't we go dance instead of actually address anything that he said? So they
Reagan's-
don't address
Why would
that.
we combat any opposing ideology or thought in this movie?
No,
he's
never.
not
We have
really
the moral high ground and we're right.
like Reagan's not really politically activated at this point. Like he's not the warrior against communism yet. So he's like, "Oh, Trumbo, your ideas sound."
It's because he's
kinda-"
still trying to be a working actor, but he's a bit of a hack and
Yeah.
his best days are behind him.
Yeah.
He doesn't know the menace of the communist threat yet.
Or would you rather be a pig?
Very good. Childhood flashbacks. Yes.
So this is funny. So
Oh my God.
this is the framing device does this weird thing where it's like, first I'll show you Reagan as a young man. Now I'll show you him as a bit of a middle-aged man. But if you want to understand him as a middle-aged man, you need to see him as a younger man. And then you need to, if you want to understand him as a younger man, you need to understand him as a lifeguard.
First you must, but to understand him as a lifeguard, to really see what makes this man tick.
It's just like,
And the
I
whole
had to
thing-
understand the boy.
just fucking take me there, man. You don't need to tell me. You don't need to give me a heads up about what's going to happen.
And keep in mind, it's all John Voight's character, the old KGB agent, talking to this new KGB agent. He's like, you want to know why the Soviet Union fell? You want to understand the man, Reagan? First, you have to understand the boy.
So yeah, every time they cut back to John Voight, which is a lot in this movie, he's just joined with this kind of like, they're always doing something different. Sometimes they're having like a cup of tea, other times they're like sitting in another room, they're like doing things, and every time this young agent is asking the most asinine questions, he's like, but how did he do it? How did you lose? Do you mean that he was really that good? Yes, he was really that good. Let me
guy-
tell you how he is so good.
Like he goes through a whole journey too, that young KGB agent, because when John Voight starts telling the story, he's like too cool for school, smoking a cigarette. And then as the story's going along and Reagan's getting more power, that guy starts like chain smoking, and then he's like more disheveled, and he's like, but what happened next, John Voight? How did he get his next point to power?
Ronald Reagan is the communist in this movie what George Washington is the British people taking a shit
He makes them
in
shit.
Abraham Lincoln's story.
It made all Politburo shit.
Nothing makes a communist shit like Ronald Reagan.
Loosens their bowels.
God.
Ronald Reagan for communists is intensified Metamucil, soluble fiber, going straight to their bowels. They shit mega.
He makes them reconsider things. He makes them take a long, hard look at themselves in the mirror.
Ronald Reagan is fortified prune juice.
Yeah, so
Mega paint jobs.
he did paint job on KGB bathroom.
We
The
thanked him
paint job
for it.
said freedom.
Reagan ordered the CIA to do 2 paint jobs.
Then the Berlin Wall crumbled. His paint job so powerful. It ended communism.
Paint job this wall.
Mr. Gorbachev, watch me paint job this wall. Oh, he was the greatest man.
Truly. Truly.
So to find what I was really looking for, I had to go back to Reagan the lifeguard. He saved 77, but there was question whether all those were legitimate. And we see him saving a cute girl who wants his attention. And he learned saving people would not always result in praise. And so we see like him saving some guy who's like, I don't need to be saved. I was fine or whatever. And it's like, he always know better
Yeah.
than even people who don't like him.
Well, Nancy, sometimes I save people even when they didn't know they needed it.
And in sports, he learned what's it's like to lead others and work in a team.
Yeah,
It just can't stop fucking glazing this.
It's pukey. It's a pukey movie. Everything they say about Reagan makes you want to puke. But
He's the bestest. So, like,
yeah.
this is the sequel to North in a lot of ways, where he's the very the best
the best
boy.
boy.
He's the most wonderful boy.
Oh, yeah.
He can do anything he wants. He's
But don't worry, everyone knows it.
Yeah.
yes.
And this lifeguard thing in particular will pop up a few times throughout the movie where, like, Reagan's like, well, it's because I was a lifeguard that I know how to deal with this political situation. And
Yeah.
I'm always used to rescuing people because I was a lifeguard.
Yeah. So
I
this is-
saved 77 men.
So as a young man here, he does get baptized by Reverend Cleaver, played by Kevin Sorbo, aforementioned. And this is where, at his church, he becomes radicalized
Right. He sees
by a guest preacher named B.E. Kirchman.
a former communist or somebody from a communist country who's
he's
just
a defector. Who's
Yeah.
I'm sure if I look him up, like every Soviet defector, he probably owned slaves, plantations, huge amounts of mines, vast resources. He was probably a
Yeah.
landlord of multiple fucking slums.
A nice oligarch.
Yeah, and
Let's get him
and
on
then
our
of
side.
course, well, let me tell you about all the freedoms they took away. I had to flee the Soviet Union. And in this movie, just like Reagan, just has to accept all of that completely uncritically and just be completely radicalized.
I laughed out loud at his line where he's like, the first thing the Soviets came for was God.
Yeah.
They took God from us.
It's the most intense things. It's like not the churches. It was God.
yeah.
And Kevin Sorbo's just like got his head in his hands. Like,
Unbelievable. God is great, he says. God is great.
Yeah, Kevin Sorbo can't take it, and I think I didn't get it down, but he has some lines where he just goes on about the pitfalls of communism, how the righteous, upright path.
It is
Through
so
God is the best path.
dangerous, communism.
even a little bit.
Yeah.
Can't let it into your home.
Not even once, because it's addictive.
I had a friend smoked a communism joint one time. They died.
Just say no.
First time, just that one time is enough.
Yeah, exactly. And the first hit's always free. That's how they get you.
Yeah.
Always looking for a free ride, those commies. One thing about Reagan's dad is it does show that like his dad is actually a great speaker. When he's in the bar, he's able to enrapture the crowds, and so you kind of get the hint that like Reagan got that from him, but he had this dark demon, which was the alcoholism.
Yeah.
So he would have been like and there's a scene where like little boy Reagan is talking to mommy and he says like, why does daddy drink so much? Like it's just so sappy and just so on the nose, like everything in this movie. It's just like they really squeeze the melodrama.
He drinks because he's a godless Catholic.
Yeah.
He worships the wrong God. Okay.
He's not going to get you to heaven.
He's a heathen.
But along the way here, Reagan's mother is really impressed that he could remember so much scripture and says that kind of encourages him to kind of go into acting because he has a gift. He can remember lines like it was nothing, and he's really good at talking too.
That's one of his great powers, one of his great acting powers that he can employ.
I don't need cue cards.
Yeah.
I was trained by MGM.
Well, I always remember the lines. That's why I'm a leading man.
Yep.
You don't make it out of the MGM backlot unless you don't make it past the lion unless you have all your lines memorized.
So we see him in the 1940s. Now he's an adult finally, and he's at the Warner Brothers studios. Yeah, he worked for Warner Brothers.
Warner Brothers.
Yeah. If you see the police, Warner Brother. He's doing the loose lips sink ships ads for the
He did
Army
a lot
and
of
stuff.
like World War II newsreel footage and
loose
stuff.
lips sink ships.
That kind of got him in the public mind.
The Gipper. Do this one for the Gipper. I don't know if he was the Gipper yet.
I'm not sure when he becomes the Gipper.
They say Gipper like once in
They
this
barely
movie.
Yeah.
give that the credit it's due, I
What's
think.
that about?
Underserviced.
Yeah, when he's running for governor in this is when they break out the Gipper.
Yeah.
I think.
Gotta win one for the Gipper.
So,
But even back...
he's here. Yeah, he's already vice president of SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, right?
Yeah. He's not fully in politics, but he's got a political role in the studio system.
So this movie now expects us to accept Jack Warner as a good guy,
Magnanimous
and a mentor.
Jack. Old Honest Jack, as they called him.
We're supposed to be on Jack Warner's side.
Yeah.
He's a great man, powerful man.
You know, what you got to understand is that Hollywood is a hotbed for communist sentiment, and my God, it's a rotten apple, and you need somebody to trim it, to prune that rotten apple off the tree. And
I don't know about you, but I always side with feds and the richest people in the history of the United States. Those are the people that I know are the good guys.
Oh, they've got their hearts in the right place.
Yeah, they're a good handshake.
You know they're the hardest workers, and they pulled their bootstraps up the hardest because they've got the most money.
But Jack Warner, by the way, is played by
Kevin Dillon.
Welcome back.
Yeah. Doing a bit of a transformation. Like he's
Do we have
he's
Kevin
doing
Dillon?
something.
That was
we
Matt
didn't do-
Dillon.
we did Matt
We had the
Dillon.
better Dillon.
Yeah.
We haven't covered a Kevin Dillon yet.
Kevin, I mean,
Oh.
He's done some stuff.
He was
in The
hilarious in
Blob.
Entourage. He was good in The Blob. He's done
Yeah.
some stuff.
Is there other Dylans? Are they like a Baldwin family?
I
where-
only know
There
the
might
two.
be one more Dillon.
Yeah, maybe we got to get.
They don't talk about the other Dillon.
He was Kevin Dillon's Siamese twin.
Get back in the hole.
I mean, Kevin Dillon looks like he could have been born from like a mole or something on
Yeah.
Matt Dillon's body. Like he grew
Like-
from him.
Matt Dillon almost ate him in utero, but he escaped at the
Yeah.
last minute.
He is like a malformed.
My brother almost got me, but I was too strong.
He's like in Total Recall, that creature that hangs off the guy's chest.
Yeah. Watto.
Quit.
Is it Watto or Quado?
Yeah.
Reagan.
Stop the communist, Reagan.
You must be the other Dylan. Fight the blob.
Yeah.
He's a good man, though.
He gives him a pep talk about making a real difference. Make sure you just shut down that union altogether. Once again, we can't have set designers wanting health insurance or
We can't have.
we can't
You can't have them
Sorrel.
stopping after 12 hours.
yeah, we can't have our indentured servants making a living wage.
Yeah. Well, sometimes children need to work for 15 hours.
I worked hard as a young lad. Look where it got me.
That's where this movie already is really with the dissonance on it. It's
Yeah.
just showing me stuff and
Yeah.
like really expecting me to think that
And
Ronald is the good guy.
yeah, like showing a very negative scene of Ronald Reagan, but playing soaring music behind it so that it seems inspirational.
What he's
So
doing
it
is fucking deranged.
It expects
Yeah.
you to just fully be on his side and not spend one moment thinking about what he's actually doing or what any of the things that he's against actually are.
No.
It doesn't examine the other side of this issue at all. Where if you look at Lincoln, you walk away from that movie fully understanding what the Southerners were all about, what all of the different factions and parties were all about.
You know, and that's exactly right. Lincoln gave me so much to think about. And of course, I was really thinking about it and doing my work to make sure I was understanding it on this watch. But like, it was so thought-provoking, like just all of the different facets of it. Like, well, you know, with the Emancipation Proclamation, are slaves people? Well, he seizes them as property. Does he believe they're property?
Yeah.
Like all of the nuance and everything that's in there, it makes it such a rich viewing experience. And this movie doesn't give you any of that.
Yeah, like even the ultimate baddies in Lincoln, just like the Confederate Army, you get a little blurb that explains their position and why they care about something like slavery as much as they do. And they're the bad guys, and you fully get where they're coming from. And you're not supposed to cheer for them or anything, but you at least understand their perspective. Whereas
We get none of that perspective
none of that
in
here.
this. Yeah, the Soviets, their perspective in this movie, as far as this movie's concerned, is that they hate freedom.
Then
That's
they just
all
want-
there is to it.
they just
hate
want
God,
the
they hate
next guy
freedom.
to hurry up so they
Yeah.
can jump on Reagan's dick.
Basically,
Because they want to just fucking knob that
too.
guy's, slob
Deep
that guy's
down,
knob
they all
so
want
hard.
to fucking suck Reagan's dick.
Yeah.
But their official party line is they fucking hate freedom.
Oh yeah, the
And they-
Soviets, they're bullies, and
hate
they need
God.
a strong person to stand up to them.
Who
could
Where are we gonna
possibly
find
do
a
it?
strong person?
But yeah, like that dissonance is why I didn't understand. Like for the first half hour of this movie, I didn't know what it was going for, and I thought it might be a comedy or a satire because there is that dissonance with like I don't know, just something between Quaid's performance of Reagan and like the way the movie's shot and just the dialogue, it's almost like it's supposed to be a comedy at some points, and then it like you say, it glazes him so hard. You're like, oh, okay, this is definitely not a satire. This is like a pro Reagan, but
It's made by people who are incapable of irony.
Yeah, exactly.
It's also made by people who don't actually care about Reagan as a person. He's just propped up as an idea.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Whereas like Lincoln is a fully fleshed out character. Reagan is just like a real fucking freight train, you know, of a guy
conservative
who has,
icon Reagan.
Yeah.
That's who this movie is about.
God bless him.
But like there are moments where this movie is also trying to be funny, I feel like. But this movie is not funny in the way that it's trying to be funny. It's funny in a different way. So that's a weird little clashing tone happening too.
So they're at a SAG dinner, and Jane Wyman's upset with Ron for being too focused on politics.
You're an actor. That's who you are, not politics.
Mina Suvari's bad in this.
Yeah.
Nothing against her. I don't know.
She's got the one note role in this. She's like, if you want to compare this to Walk the Line biopic, she's like
Yes.
Johnny Cash's first wife, who's just there to be like, you're going to never be a rock star, Johnny Cash. You better put that guitar away.
Well,
You better not write a song about this, Dewey Cox.
yeah.
all the women in this movie, of which there are a few, are really underwritten, even more so than the male characters. But the women
yeah.
in particular are just shrill.
Oh, God.
Fucking harpies.
Oh, my God. Yeah. And Nancy in particular, and boy, is Margaret Thatcher a weirdo.
Oh,
When
man.
she comes.
Oh, I love the Margaret Thatcher scenes.
Get him, cowboy. Go get him.
So we see scenes of him sparring with Sorrell, a set painter and labor activist.
Sorry, Sorrel.
Yeah. Oh boy, does he fucking own Sorrel, a set painter
Yeah.
who wants health insurance.
Sorrel.
And Reagan is fighting him. He's backed up by people like Walt Disney and Jack
God.
Warner, who personally fucking roughed this guy up, sent their fucking goons in on him, ruined his career, attacked his family, made libelous accusations of him in the press. The richest men in America.
Yeah,
Backed up by the
exactly.
federal fucking government for whom Reagan was fucking talking to.
He's
And
a fucking snitch, man.
he was a fucking snitch, a fucking asshole. He ruined
Yeah.
people's lives. He took their livelihoods, and we're uncritically supposed to take the sides of him, Disney, Warner,
He's
the
framed as a
fucking
hero.
CIA.
Not once for a moment does he ever question
No.
his moral high ground
God.
this
here.
is like, I'm watching this in disbelief. I'm loving this movie. I fucking
Yeah,
love it.
Reagan does a fist fight against this guy. Like this evil Sorrel is trying to push his pinko nonsense, and Reagan has to draw a
Sorrel
line.
is the bully.
Yeah,
and Reagan's
yeah,
standing
exactly.
up to the bully.
This pinko Sorrel is going after poor Jack
you
Warner.
don't get it, do you? We own this town.
Yeah,
Fucking a set painter.
Yeah, Sorrel says that. We own this town.
Reagan.
I mean, in a just world, maybe the workers would.
you know,
But
there's a new sheriff in town, so
Jesus.
Sorrel's not going to get away with his bullshit any longer. And
Yes.
Reagan's like, you know what? I'm putting my foot down. We're gonna have a vote. We're gonna see. We're gonna vote for the future of Hollywood. And they do a little fist fight here, don't they? They get into like some fisticuffs.
yeah, they do. I don't have anything more to add to that.
I actually don't remember that, but I believe you.
Yeah. Well, suffice to say,
So
Oh, right. No, his marriage is crumbling.
his marriage to Jane Wyman.
Jane doesn't want him to pursue politics, and Reagan, he's washed up in Hollywood. He's burnt a bunch of bridges because
His
he
mom-
keeps snitching on people.
Yeah.
So he's kind
His
of
mom Nellie advises him, and she's like, "Remember who you are and who you serve," implying God, right?
Yeah, very much
He's
so.
on a holy fucking crusade.
Absolutely. And I wound up watching a cam version of it. So there's just like coughing at this point.
Yeah.
And then about 2
Who
minutes after the
cares?
scene ends,
I want everybody to know we didn't pay to see this movie,
Yeah.
and we never will.
I received a document and I opened it up, and wouldn't you know it, it was a recorded version of Reagan in the theaters. It was a good copy up until now when somebody started coughing and had a bit of a coughing fit, and I kind of realized what was going on. And about 2 minutes
You
after
texted
this,
us saying there's somebody. This movie's so cheap. There's people coughing on set, and they didn't edit it out.
that's honestly what I thought, and it wouldn't have surprised me. And then the coughing went on, and I'm like, okay, this is weird. Then the snoring came. And then there's just snoring for the rest of this movie. And we're like half an hour in. It's a 2-hour movie thereabouts. And there's just somebody sawing logs right next to whoever's recording this movie the entire time. And it's like, you get the different kinds of snoring where it's like, and they'll get like the snorts and stuff like that. And it made this movie 10 times better. It really made me feel like I was there in the audience.
It was probably that octogenarian's third time seeing that movie. He doesn't have anything else to do. His kids won't come see it with him. His grandkids don't return his phone calls.
Or they brought the whole family out. Some of the reviews that we're reading was like, we went with a group of 7 people and we loved it. There was applause at the end. This is my second time seeing it. Like, people love this movie.
Oh, I'm certain people that went and saw it that you'd find a smattering of applause in the theaters. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're going to see this movie, you're going to love this movie. It takes a certain type of person to seek this movie out. Either like a fucking nut job like the 3 people you're listening to right now or a true believer.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
I bet there was a lot of church groups that went to this movie.
you'd have to be either a movie critic or a podcast creator or a fucking nut job to see this movie. And we're all of those things.
Oh yeah, and like for the record, like I think we've been kind of hinting at it, but this is like the funniest movie of the year.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's the best comedy I've seen in years.
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious.
And they're right. Hollywood don't make them like this anymore.
No, they're too afraid. They're too afraid of the truth.
I was kind of saying earlier, hinting to off mic, that this was like the most shocking movie I've seen in years. I was actually shocked at this movie more than if I watched a movie with hardcore gore, like more than when I watch American Guinea Pig or something. This movie shocked me because until I caught on to what it was trying to do, I guess I was just so shocked that it was just so unironically presenting Reagan in this way, where it was just so uncritical about him, just presenting all of his scandals as, at worst, a learning lesson for Reagan.
Yeah,
like,
all part of the grand arc of this nobleman's story. I've never needed a drink as much as I needed one after watching this movie. Like, I'm normally not a guy who turns to a fucking bottle of whiskey as some sort of solace.
My jaw
my
dropped.
mind was melted by the end of this movie.
Like
I really should save these for closing remarks.
I literally found my mouth agape a few times watching this, where it was like, oh yeah, I can still experience surprise and shock.
Oh, I know.
Great film. This movie made me feel something for the first time in years.
I haven't been wiped out like this by a movie since I saw Sallow or 120 Days of Sodom. I'm not even joking. No, you're right.
It takes a man eating his shit to elicit the same reaction.
That's a 5-star movie. This is a 5-star movie.
This movie made us eat its shit.
So this is where he meets the fucking throat queen. Nancy Davis.
Nancy.
Who
And
is
you
who
can
is
tell.
a Z-list actress who is sucking her way around the Paramount lot, or I
Yeah.
guess Warner Brothers lot.
I'm sure.
All of them.
Whatever lot. Yeah.
I don't care.
Her,
Good for her though. I'm like, seriously.
Yeah.
she's going to Reagan with a problem where him, as a president of the Screen Actors Guild, there's another actress in Hollywood who has her name.
This is their meet cute.
Yeah.
He almost got her blacklisted because he was snitching on her to the FBI.
See, he's got a hilarious line here where she's saying, it's a different actress who signed this communist letter. Like, I'm not the actress. And Reagan's response to her is, well, the easiest thing would be for you to change your name. Like, rather than, like, what?
And also, give me some suck.
I've heard about you, Nancy.
Well, if you want to keep your name, maybe there's something else we could do.
You see that black puffy couch behind you?
Yeah.
He's
It's
a
our casting
smooth
couch.
operator.
I'm sure it didn't go... Yeah, I'm sure it went more like what you're describing, Vonn.
Probably.
But in the movie, even, he wastes no time into forcing her to go on a date with him.
Yeah.
But he's like, well, we'll review your case during dinner.
You wouldn't want to be mistaken for a dirty communist, would you?
Yeah.
We love this man. There's nothing like a relationship with a horse, is there?
You know-
He wants to take her horseback riding.
Yeah, they go horseback
knows how to get
riding.
her.
He comes clean with her on this. He's like, I'm what you call damaged goods. This is his Tinder profile. I'm divorced. I have kids. I'm nearly broke. I haven't had a good roll in years. And she asks him, like, what he wants to do next. And he's like, I want to do some good in this world.
Yeah. He's like, I used to have ambitions, but now I just want to be a force for good.
Yeah.
I want to be in commercials for Wheaties. And
We never see his
Tied.
kids in this movie, do we?
so we see them for a minute. Was it with Nancy or was it with his first wife?
There's a funeral. One of his kids with his first wife. This is one of the things putting a strain on his first marriage.
Right.
was
Oh, they lost a child.
they
right?
lost a child.
Yeah.
And that's it. So like they have kids, they lose a child, and that's, something.
Yeah.
It's sad. They kind of really gloss over it, and then that is all we see of his kids. And he had 5 of them.
Right. Yeah.
And again, zero interiority into this character.
Zero.
You don't know, like you don't even fucking know his kids' names.
No.
Like
Yeah.
for a guy who's like so upright and compassionate and caring, you would think that you would see his family once in this movie.
America
It's
is
simply
my family.
not what this movie's about.
No.
So we see Ron do a series of cheesy commercials. He's doing, cigarette commercials, soap, and all that fucking junk.
This is a little beneath his dignity. He's he's an he's in the SAG actors. Man, he fought sorely. He fought communism already. He shouldn't be doing these junky commercials.
That's just the way the Hollywood machine goes.
He's like Leonardo DiCaprio's character
Totally.
in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
A washed up Western star. You go from playing the hero to being the villain to
The glory
being
days are
lucky
over.
if you can get a spot in an Italian Western.
So yeah, his career's on the decline. Maybe he'll make the leap to politics. And right around the time the audience is thinking, what does this have to do with anything? The Russian guy, we jump back to the present to our little Russian comrades, and is like, but comrade, what the fuck does this have to do with anything? What does this have to do with the fall of the USSR?
Yeah, what does this have to do with our motherland?
Because so far Reagan's only been fighting communists in Hollywood. He's not actually going after the Soviet Union. So
Yeah.
what's that got to do with Russia?
Petrovich, he's like, this is the motherland. And he's pointing to these portraits all over his study. Chekhov, and
Yeah.
Tolstoy.
Lenin.
Yeah, the motherland is here. Points to his heart.
So cheesy.
I love it.
Yeah, a lot of culture, a lot of like who you are as a nation does lie in the art you create.
Oh, I agree with him on that. I mean,
He's like,
there's more to the
Reagan is the
nation
motherland.
than its politics, I suppose. But that's a part of it too. Is how do you take care of your people? How do you organize yourselves as a society? And great artists and writers and thinkers have come from all nations, and some more than others because some nations have more opportunity than others.
yeah, you have to be at
and
a
Reagan's policies have made sure that certain nations don't have an opportunity to have their
Yeah.
great minds grow and be great thinkers.
Reagan worked very hard to ensure that people within his own nation couldn't
Yeah.
produce their art and culture.
That as well.
like worry about food. Don't worry about your healthcare bills. Don't worry about writing the next great political treatise.
That's something that keeps me up at night. And I can't remember who said it. It might have even been Marx. But like, you think about that. Like, for every poor single mother who has to like work 3 jobs, like she could be a Tolstoy.
Yeah.
We'll never know what kind of geniuses the world loses
Oh,
for
yeah.
not offering opportunities to everybody who should have them, right?
Like the guy who invents
people in the global
teleportation.
self, like, we
he's
keep
already
them-
died 12 times.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, how many people in the plundered global south
Yeah.
have opportunities to go to university and or foster their talents or
But,
become Hollywood stars?
But I think you'll agree if they have more freedom, that means we have less freedom. So
Right. Right, of course.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So Reagan's mother died.
This is really weird. This is just like, this is how this movie is obsessed with covering beat by beat Reagan's life. So it's just like, oh, by the way, Reagan, it's just like a 5-second scene. Reagan's mother died and now he's at the funeral. It's just
It
this
didn't
time-
really impact him whatsoever.
Yeah, moving on.
While this is happening, he becomes obsessed with reading all about Russia and communism and politics, and he just dives headfirst into his study and reads every book he can get his hands on.
Yeah.
Which I believe. I
Yeah.
believe
Yeah.
he read a lot.
I believe he was obsessed with Russia and communism.
Yeah, Nancy asks him how he knows so much about politics in the Soviet Union. Well, when I was a lifeguard, I studied the currents of the river, both the currents on top and the currents deep under the water. I knew people were in trouble before they did.
It's such a
Which
gross.
is probably something he said.
It's like it's such a nasty paternalistic view where he's like, well, sometimes even when they didn't want to, they didn't realize they were drowning, and I had to save them from communism.
Does that jive though? It's like, well, sometimes people need to be saved from themselves. Maybe I'll just strip the social net
Yeah, maybe they shouldn't be allowed on the beach.
and do not. Maybe I'll do nothing to save them and just let them drown.
For
Reagan defunds
for being
lifeguards.
such a godlike avatar of freedom, it's amazing how authoritarian he can be in stripping away other people's rights
Yeah.
in doing this.
Yeah,
But of
it's-
course, the movie does not examine that.
No,
No, like it's
it examines
sociopathic. Some of the behavior, like some conservative
Fully.
behavior, like
Fully.
So is this deep current thing? Am I reading too much into it? Is that any sort of allusion to a deep state maneuvering things well below what we
maybe.
see?
it's like the shadow government's trying to
Some of
control.
this, I know that people didn't want this movie to come out ahead,
I can see
ahead of
why.
the election.
Powerful
Because
forces.
they thought it would sway the election in Donald Trump's favor. I don't think
I
that
think-
happened. I think this movie is a failure on every
Yeah, I
level, and it's speaking to the choir.
that's kind of taking this movie a little
Well,
too seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
The same people who watch this movie and are like, "Go Reagan, you're the best," are the same people who are like, "Go Trump, you're the best."
The
I would
people who
imagine.
have a couple free hours on like a Thursday afternoon to go see this movie have time to go and vote, and they will.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that Venn
that's-
diagram's a circle. Those people are already locked in. I don't think this movie changed anyone's mind.
no, no.
In 1964, Reagan campaigns for the Republican presidential nominee Barry Goldwater, who was a very staunch conservative. He delivers a time for choosing speech. Reagan discusses his political future with these backroom Republicans, and he decides to make a run for governor in 1966. Of course, Goldwater was roundly defeated by LBJ, running for re-election after Kennedy had been killed, right? Yeah, so he tells these backroom Republicans, the number one issue of our time is communism. It threatens to destroy our freedom from within. Well, I've played a senator before, but never a governor.
Yeah,
And they're all like, wow, he's a fucking genius.
He's a good actor. This
Yeah,
guy's a
he's
good
using his
fucking
acting.
actor.
Can you act your way into the governorship, Reagan?
Petrovich is like, the Crusader was now governor.
We didn't stand a chance.
And still you weren't warned. After all, what could a state governor do to us?
Poor Petrovic. He's been watching the whole thing unfold since this guy was an actor in Hollywood, and now it's starting to become real. And like, this guy's good.
The lifeguard will be our undoing.
Only he realizes.
So now we're supposed to look on in admiration as in 1969, as governor of California, he clashes with student radicals at the University of California protesting the fucking Vietnam War.
Oh my god! Yeah,
He
this
has
is
the
gross.
National Guard sent in to quell the protests violently.
Yeah, you get like all this like there's like a mob of these hippies with signs like "No war" and stuff.
Yeah.
And just bash their fucking heads.
Yeah.
Commie fucks. These
If they want to protest silently, then we'll give them the silent baton over the head.
We'll put
Yeah.
them in their fucking graves. They can protest from there.
He does a little press conference where he's kind of telling off like the deans and the professors of this university. He's like, "Well, you're the ones who filled these students' heads with crazy ideas that they didn't need to follow the laws anymore. I'm out of here. I'm calling martial law on the school."
It's insane.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like on any side of the aisle you're on, we can all agree the Vietnam War was a fucking bad idea.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was
and
just
a
thinking, like, are we
fiasco.
still defending it? Are people still defending it as a good idea? Like,
Well, we're only defending it insofar as Governor Reagan smashed those fucking
Yeah.
hippies' heads in.
put yourself in his shoes. Back then, what would you do? What
not-
would you do?
Yeah.
We don't need any context beyond that. We don't need to consider. I mean, we've already spent decades relitigating the Vietnam War, and that nation has just begun to heal from it. And this movie is just uncritically stating that it was correct, and anyone who spoke out against it deserved to be have their lives ruined.
Yeah, it's a real. You're always right in the moment, And even if you're wrong in hindsight, you
know,
were right at the time.
He's even making fucking remarks about the kids' looks. We see a chubby young student, young man,
He's like-
and he's like, Governor Reagan, make love, not war. And Reagan's like, well, by the looks of him, he can't do either.
Slam dunk.
I'm sorry, Reagan. Did you fight in a fucking war?
Well, that student's quite.
Well,
the
I
fat
did.
son.
Were you up for a fucking draft?
I
No,
did.
you made commercials.
I did war ads during the
Yeah.
World War II.
I starred in a newsreel.
I can't stress it enough. This movie expects you to think he's the hero.
Yeah, I mean, you have to admit he shows remarkable restraint because he could have ordered the National Guard to shoot all these kids.
He didn't
but-
club any of them over the head himself.
No,
Luke, did you miss that?
Yeah. I wonder if
did
this
your
scene-
liberal eyes glaze over that detail?
I wonder if this scene actually happened because when he goes to do that conference there, all these protesters are standing in the hallway, and
Yeah.
as he passes them in the corridor, they all have their mouths taped shut. And as he walks by and he goes up to the door, he turns around and he goes shh, and he shushes them,
and charms them.
they all laugh. Every single one of them laughs and loves him.
Every single dude comes in his pants, and every single panty in that
Yeah.
hallway drops sopping wet to the floor.
yeah,
They fucking are ready to jump this guy's bones.
yeah, just
the women want him, the men want to be him.
100%.
Yeah.
Like these. That
I
could
mean-
not have happened.
And
That
you-
could not have happened.
You know what? That is like one of the real Reagan's strengths was his ability to charm people and stuff. But
That is sure.
this movie just ratchets it up so much and just squeezes it like so much to the point where it's just so cringingly unbelievable.
It
So
strains
now-
credulity. Even I can't believe anybody would fucking believe that. But I guess
One of
they
these
would.
student protesters, it's around this time, right? He camps out on his lawn to get a word with him. And I didn't look it up. This probably is how they met. Reagan invites this guy into his house for a cup of coffee. And then some years later, when he's the president, he hires him as his speechwriter, and he just loves him. Like,
Yeah.
give this guy 5 minutes with you, and he'll change your mind.
Oh, that kid was a fucking sellout.
yeah.
Like most of the boomer generation.
Governor Reagan, I'm camping on your lawn. Yeah, he starts off as a cool guy with a Hawaiian shirt, and then he gets a little stuffier, but he's still wearing a blue suit, so he's still a little outside the box.
Yeah, he had a bit of trouble fitting into the suit, but
So, like every scene in this movie, here's another pivotal scene. Because all the scenes are pivotal.
every single moment is the most
Yeah.
important moment of his life that defines
And
But
everything.
this
of his-
one is real, and it really did happen. This is
Man.
the prophecy.
the prophecy.
Yes, in 1970, the Reagans held prayers with Pat Boone and Pastor George K. Otis. And Otis prophesied that Reagan will become president if he walks uprightly before God. And so they all like hold hands at their fucking Hollywood Coke mansion and decide that Reagan's going to be president.
Well, I mean, if it's been prophesied, then it's been prophesied.
It's right there.
Now the
What do you
Lord
gotta
is...
do?
Lincoln told me there's no prophet in prophecy.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
look what happened to him.
Yeah, exactly.
What a fucking idiot.
Reagan lived a full, long life. Lincoln, shot in the head. The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, and we get a scene now where he's going, and we get a lot of scenes with him and his ranch owner buddy, who's like one of his best friends, and I guess some sort of moral compass for him.
John, why don't you go saddle the horses?
This is like, from here on out, after every important decision Reagan has to make, he'll spend a little time, quality time on the ranch first, chopping
Yeah.
wood or
With his-
riding on a horse.
With his billionaire confidant,
yeah.
he's like looking at buying this ranch. He's like, even on a governor's salary, it's a little steep, and it'll all be gone in a few years anyway when the Soviets take over. He says that exactly. Not much a retired governor can do, but a president, he can do a thing or two. Like, this is actually what he thought. He
Yeah.
actually thought that they were on the verge of being taken over completely.
He was
by
actually
Soviets.
a crazy person. He was actually a lunatic living in a paranoid delusion.
Seriously.
He is all of our aunties
yeah.
on Facebook.
yeah.
Worse. I don't know, man. Even the most deluded people I know, I don't think honestly that communism is somehow going to take over
Yeah.
here.
That there was.
It's a real
you know,
hot button topic even today, which is fucking ludicrous.
I'm the only communist I know.
Yeah.
Like, where are these communists? Because I'd like to meet them.
The only one is John Voight's character in this movie. He's the only communist who's actually the communist Reagan's looking out for. Who's like, yeah,
He was
the heart of the Soviet is in every communist across the world.
He was right. We were trying to take over.
Yeah, he stopped us.
They keep reiterating how right he was about that. You're right.
Honestly, yeah, that is like their whole point. Is like, if it weren't for Reagan, we would have taken over the whole country in 2 weeks.
True.
I'm gonna start a new war.
Once we have somebody who supports labor practices in the Screen Actors Guild, that's it. That's the Soviets winning.
Bah! Foiled again. Twirling their mustache, they take off.
God, this movie's insane. So, 6 years later, Reagan challenges the incumbent president, Gerald Ford, for the Republican nomination. Win one for the Gipper. That's when we get that. As the delegates are trying to whip votes at the RNC.
This is the low point in the hero's journey, I think.
Yeah, and it's not that low. He
It's
loses.
very
He's
not that
so
low.
upset about it. It's like anybody else, this would be like a highlight in their life. But this is Reagan, and everything has to be a win.
Yeah, a pretty close election.
But he doesn't make it, so he's got to be governor for a few more
And
years.
he's a bitter fucking baby about it, too, in the movie. He's
Yeah.
like, Ford was handing out ambassadorships and rides on Air Force One like candy to babies.
Never had a chance
Yeah.
because of Ford's dirty dealings.
Yeah.
Ford was just a better politician than me.
If
It's
it was a
Gerald
straight-up
Ford's
fight.
fault you lost, you fucking jerk off.
The American people wanted me, but
All I wanted to do was to be the guy to say "niet" to the Soviets.
I missed that line.
very important.
Yeah, this is gonna really come back later. This is like,
pays
We're going to
off.
scream and clap when he does it.
oh hell yeah! But Ford, bumbling buffoon, loses the election to Jimmy fucking Carter of
Can
all
you
people.
believe it?
Oh, man.
Limp wrist Carter.
Is he still alive? Is he still building houses?
He's alive.
Oh, he looked like he was almost dead.
Okay.
He's,
last week
he is
in the
on the
news.
verge of death.
He's
the
building
oldest
houses up
president.
into like a couple years ago. That guy's a real fucking gem, man.
Yeah, he's ancient. There was just somebody whatever, Jimmy Carter's handlers just posted a picture of him like enjoying a movie the other day online, and I was like, oh, that's great. He looks
like the fucking crypt.
yeah,
sitting
yeah.
Well, he's got to be like 100 years old by now.
Yeah, he's so old. He was alive during Lincoln's time. He was there in the house during those scenes.
It's wild how long ago it was, because to me, 1979 doesn't seem like that long ago. But,
No.
I mean, it was before I was born, but not that long.
No,
But
it's like getting to that
people,
point.
people who were alive then are old now.
Yeah.
Like, that's just that. So Petrovich is like, Democrats and Republican presented a united front against us for 30 years. But we sensed an opportunity with Jimmy Carter.
Weak-willed.
He's weak.
He's soft. He's so soft the way he caves.
We knew we would conquer against Jimmy Carter.
We know how to beat simple farmer.
It's stupid peanuts.
He put stupid solar panel on the White House. Pathetic.
He's a hayseed.
But then, in 1979, our worst fears began to take shape.
fucking
And they're just
look out.
screaming, no, Reagan's running again.
God. But yeah,
I just love every time they cut to Petrovich, and in the time of the movie, like back in the past, he's always just in this shadowy room with all these other Soviet generals, and
Yeah.
Brezhnev's just wringing his hands and just getting more and more pissed off every time they show him.
Fur on his brow. He's just so fucking pissed.
and there is one little fun, like Jimmy Carter will lose the election, obviously, and Reagan will become the new president. And one little fun little piece of trivia I always loved about that is Jimmy Carter did install solar panels on the White House.
Yeah.
And then the first thing Reagan did when he got into office was that he just had the solar panels torn out, which I think just sums it up. It's like such a great metaphorical way to put everything. It's like you could have just left them there and they would have done, like, they're on top of the White House. They would have just provided you power, but he went out of his way to be like, fuck this liberal shit and pull the solar panels
Sounds like hippie nonsense to
out.
me.
Yeah.
He was just a reactionary fucking ideologue.
That's
Yeah.
where we are now. Just
Every-
fucking every time somebody passes something, the next people come in and have to undo all the other person's shit, and it's
Yeah. To make a point.
Insanity.
thank you, Reagan.
Yeah, we do see him trouncing Carter in a debate with his big line was, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago?
Good one.
It is good.
Man, that line almost always applies in every election, no matter who's running, because everyone's always like, no, things are way shittier.
I don't know
things
if-
get shittier.
I don't know if he even coined that, but I mean, it is like a commonly used.
It's being
parlance.
used in this current election cycle. Part of the reason we picked these movies is because we are in an American election cycle and rapidly approaching.
Aren't
is
we
the
always?
American- yeah.
Are we not
It
always
never
just
stops.
waiting for
It
the
never
next election?
stops.
Yeah, we'll be having one in Canada here probably
Yeah.
by the end of the year.
Right
too.
away.
Maybe by the end of the month, who knows? This is another example of just every time Reagan opens his mouth, there's traffic jams across the country because everybody has to stop what they're doing and pay attention to him.
Oh my God. It's crazy. Every time Reagan gives a speech, the entire Soviet Politburo is just like sitting around a table watching him, tears in their eyes or screaming. Like, I'm sure
Tears
the
of
guy,
rage.
like the guy who played Gorbachev, he probably only had to spend 2 days on set. They filmed like his 12 scenes sitting around the table watching Reagan with tears in his eyes, and then one scene of him talking with Reagan.
Oh, what a boring day that would be. Okay, now Reagan
Yeah.
is giving this speech, and you're a little bit more angry than you were.
Yeah. Now you've
But
But
accepted
also,
your...
you're crying because you're so moved.
It's so powerful.
You're
Yeah.
angry on the outside, but you're moved to tears on the inside.
And you realize you've lost. You've accepted your fate.
Yeah.
Reagan wins.
Freedom. So finally, he's president. Yeah, and all of his vapid,
it's about
generic
time.
platitudes about freedom are just, they're
Well, I
making
just
him
happen
all
to think
over.
freedom's as American as apple pie, and we all like pie. And Nancy, she makes a delicious apple pie.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll go down to the creamery and get some vanilla ice cream to put on top.
It's kind of like the...
Was he the first president to talk in like a fourth grade as I'm fucking stumbling over my
He was
own words.
fourth grade president.
Was he
Well, we're
the
not presidents.
First president to talk at like a fourth grade reading level, or
Finally,
he sure wasn't the last. No,
yeah, a president the American people could relate to.
really lowered the bar, didn't he?
Man, I'm always shocked by whenever I look up America's illiteracy rate, like 50% of the country has a reading level below the 6th grade or something, and like a ridiculous percentage of the
That's so
population is
depressing,
like
dude.
functionally illiterate, like the adult population. And we're not talking about like second graders who can't read yet.
You
Well-
can call that a failure. I'd say that's a feature.
Yeah, well, that's what they're going for, right? Defund the schools and
Yeah.
getting it.
Well, sometimes you get a little bit of dirt on your shoes, and you look down, and well, the dirt is communism, and the shoes are the American people.
And that's why you can't read good.
The only way we're gonna get the dirt off our shoes is to take away funding for schools so we can fight communism.
That's why we're opening the new private academy, the Derek Zoolander School for kids who can't read good and want to learn to do other things good too.
We'll get you reading good. We'll get you reading good enough to read Reagan on the ballot. And all you got to do is put an X. We'll teach you how to do that too,
You'll be able to read The Crusader, which this movie is based on.
which is required reading.
Reagan's like, if you want to starve the beast, you got to starve the students. Simple as that.
We're not going to be reading To Kill a Mockingbird. It angers up the blood a little bit, makes you ask questions that maybe you oughtn't. We're going to read the Crusader.
Gives you
Well,
ideas.
to be fair, I don't think Reagan was burning books much. Maybe communist stuff.
The Communist Manifesto.
Yeah, like strictly communist stuff.
Yeah, he didn't know. He was from the era where they didn't realize they could go full mask off yet. Now you can burn books freely in this current political
Could and
climate.
should, yeah.
Yeah.
So Ron forms a friendship with Tip O'Neill,
Oh, this
played
is
by Dan Laria, one of my favorite actors in this movie.
This
Kevin's
is an
dad from the
important
Yeah.
friendship.
Yeah, Tip O'Neill is the Democratic Speaker of the House.
As far as I'm concerned, we're just two Irishmen who want to go have a beer together after work.
Yeah. Every day has a 6, and after 6 o'clock, we're not enemies. We're just having a beer.
I could agree to that, Mr. President.
Yeah. So yeah, they're political rivals, but they were good friends in real life as well. Yeah.
The great communicator.
Reagan's manure speech, where he's got another folksy analogy, much like Lincoln, where he's talking about a boy who his parents saw him digging in a big pile of manure one day, and they were like, why are you digging in that big pile of manure, kid? And the kid was like, well, there could be a horsey in here. And Reagan's like, well, I think this country's a big pile of manure, but we've got a horsey in here we can dig out if we're not if we dig really hard.
yeah.
Sometimes we just got to roll our sleeves up and go elbow deep in a pile of manure.
You know what? It's not bad.
Yeah. It's a good folksy little line.
That's the thing, is so much of this movie
It's
kind
not
of
as good
works
as
on
Lincoln's.
his
No.
charm works on me despite how ridiculous it all is. Because I think, as we
Yeah.
talked about, Quaid's doing a good job, and Reagan,
no matter how unpleasant he is
Yeah.
to look at.
yeah, and Reagan, I
Yeah.
think he had to have been a really charming guy.
Sure.
Well, you just got to put your boot down on their throat.
Petrovich is like, he wasn't president for more than half an hour before Iran
Yeah.
released their hostages.
So
It was morning in America.
Jimmy Carter, such a lameoid, could never free
I
those
know,
hostages.
this movie just has to get one last closing dunk in on that piece of shit Jimmy Carter.
like, well,
and so we're maybe halfway into this movie. We're into this movie a little
It's
bit.
an
and
hour in, I think, by the time he's president.
Yeah, and really, it struck me that the whole telling of this Ronald Reagan and who he is as a person is like some fourth grader describing their dad to like another fourth grader. It was like, no, he's the biggest, baddest guy. He can do anything. He freed all the hostages from Iran.
yeah.
He got it done in half an hour. He wasn't even sworn in as president.
My Reagan could beat up Bruce Lee.
So yeah, welcome back to the beginning of the movie. We're right back at the assassination attempt, and Reagan gets shot, and of course he's unflapped, he's unfazed by this.
Did you forget this narrative device, viewer? Yeah, there was the shooting that was tying this whole movie together. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really, like we talked about at the beginning, it just kind of comes in, and it's a fucking fart of a nothing. He gets
Yeah.
shot, he's like, oh, I forgot to duck, and we're all supposed to just cheer and be like, oh, he's so cavalier and brave, and you know what? Sure, I'm sure that he did have some sort of quippy, maybe he had some sort of quippy remark when he came out. Or
It really was a huge political win for him. Usually, when a president gets shot, it's a huge political win, which has been a weird thing about some of the stuff going around Trump lately, where he's been getting shot at, and it's just kind of fluff that it gets forgotten.
I can't believe how nobody gives a shit about that.
Yeah,
It's just, it came and went so fast. And it was, not to downplay it, it was a big deal. And somebody taking a shot at a presidential candidate is a big deal. We all talked about it for a week or two, and then it just got totally swept under the rug, and nobody gives a shit anymore.
he's the kind of guy where right off the top, you almost think, is this real? When somebody shoots at him, because he's Trump's such a liar and a con man that you're like, I don't know, maybe this was set up. I don't know. You're inclined to believe when people say no, actually the bullet didn't hit his ear and he scraped his ear on his hand on the way down or something like that.
Yeah, who knows? It could have been broken glass or whatever, but even still, that's a pretty big stunt to pull, and even if it's fake, you got to have a lot of trust in some
Yeah.
guy who they did the research on and turned out to be kind of just a fucking lunatic.
Yeah, a nutty guy.
talking conspiracy theories?
Let me tell you what really happened.
Water. But like that's the thing with guys who try to shoot presidents is that usually it's at best minorly politically motivated, and they're usually kind of crazy.
Or
I
they're
think the
trying to
only
impress
one-
Natalie Portman or something.
Yeah, I think the only one that was really politically motivated was John Wilkes Booth.
Yeah, but yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
He was a hardcore Confederate racist.
Yeah.
But the two Trump shooters were Republicans.
yeah.
Registered Republicans.
Yeah.
Which is kind of almost a sigh of relief thing.
This fucking election cycle is a roller coaster. It's unbelievable what's going on.
Can't wait to see what happens.
Well,
Yeah.
we were living in the future. We know what happened.
Oh my God. They're poking out my eyes.
I can't believe it. Insert winner's name. Is torturing me right now.
Me, Kennedy.
Kamala
I
Harris.
won it.
Oh, it's Robbie Kennedy.
Oh, God.
RFK Jr. I know I praised Donald Trump, but I took his cock out of my mouth for long enough to run for president again.
Wow.
And it won by a landslide.
No one suspected this. It's
And
acceptable.
now I'm here to poke out Luke's eyes.
I came to deliver his free pair of jeans. Everybody's going to get one. But also, I'm going to poke out any detractor's eyes.
I heard your Reagan podcast.
I have a necklace of eyes. I hang it from my mirror in my car.
You know what? That's missing in this movie. It would be if Nom vet came and gave Reagan his necklace of eyes that he got in Nom. And Reagan was like, yeah, I know I made the right choices. The veterans are on my side.
God, what a stupid world we live in. How do you even satirize it? I don't even know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to read the whole review, but there's this one. It's at the top of the Google reviews, 5 stars, about how Reagan's the most important movie. It's a movie that liberal Hollywood doesn't want you to see. It'll never get recognized, but it's the best movie. It's the most important movie ever. And then it's signed off as like Dr. Corporal, like he gives his entire credentials. Like how many times he's board certified, how many tours he served in Vietnam. He actually received 2 letters from Ronald Reagan. He just like signs off on all this shit. And there's like
Dental
1,000 thumbs up. Everybody loves this guy. He's the best reviewer.
Wow. I want to read all those reviews on the air.
And name them. Name the people who posted them.
Name them and fame them. Don't shame them.
Yeah,
No,
name
no.
and
They put their names on there.
applaud them.
So, yeah, Reagan's shot. The doctors come in. Oh, please tell me you're Republicans. Today, Mr. President, we're all Republicans. And everybody's just like, this is a man. This is the best
Oh,
man.
man, they love him so much.
This guy got shot and he lived.
Oh, and this whole movie just looks so bad.
Oh, yeah.
So bad.
This scene, it really highlighted it for me. I think just because it's in a hospital, so you've got the kind of harsh fluorescent lighting, but it really stood out to me where it's like, oh, actually a lot of the movie looks like this, where you're right, where is this light coming from? In a hospital, it kind of makes sense because the light's coming from above harsh fluorescence, but the rest of the movie looks like that too, and just compared to Lincoln, which was a masterclass in those little technical aspects.
Yeah.
Like, every scene was lit so great.
They couldn't be further.
This is one of the
apart.
best high and low comparisons I think we've done.
Yeah, yeah.
They're really on point with the themes and just the total difference in quality
Yeah.
between the two movies.
And,
Yeah.
and like you said, when Kevin Sorbo pops up on the screen, how you think, like, this looks like TV. Like, a lot of times that's what this movie made me feel like. This looks like a NCIS. Same with the score, like the theme song. I was like, this looks like a TV show. This sounds like a TV show. It just doesn't feel movie-ish.
Not at all. So, upon returning to the White House, Reagan clashes with David Stockman, the White House budget director, over his tax cut proposal. And he yells at him. He belittles this man, explaining to him like he's a fucking baby and explaining to the audience like they're fucking babies.
Yeah, idiots.
Listen, you fucking idiot. He doesn't say fucking, but he's like,
He wouldn't.
if you cut taxes, then rich people have more money and they spend more money and then that employs people. What's so
Yeah.
hard to understand? I don't need your economists to tell me why that's wrong.
But the good Lord only asks for 10%. Why should the American government be any different?
Yeah.
Doesn't it make sense that the job creator should have all the money?
Trickle down economics.
Seems to me, if people had more money to spend, they'd spend more money.
How's that been working out for the last fucking 40 years? Somebody please tell me. Because I'm a fucking idiot and I don't know that.
Well,
God damn it.
I mean, it has to be working out excellently because there's some soaring music.
Like, did this movie come from a parallel dimension?
Yeah.
And speaking of parallel dimension, the next scene, they frame the assassination of Pope John Paul II, or assassination attempt, pardon me, as an attack on the Polish people because they want freedom from the Soviet Union.
And this precipitated the Pope Mobile.
Yeah, and the movie, of course, neglects to mention that Mehmet Ali Agca, who did that, was a far-right fascist.
He was a communist.
He was in a far-right fascist Grey Wolf club. Like, they're a fucking reactionary Nazi movement. This movie expects you to believe that these are communists.
They're all going after the freedom.
Communism's everywhere.
It's just
Yeah.
really misleading you on this shit here.
Yeah, it's a lot of lies by omission. They're conveniently never going to talk about who is trying to kill Reagan, what their motivations are. A lot of little glossing over going on.
Yeah. So now when it's just all these hits, Reagan then learns that air traffic controllers are on strike. So he fires them.
Yeah.
Well, if they don't want to work 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
One of the most important jobs in the country.
One of the
These
most
guys want
stressful
a
jobs,
modest
too.
fucking pay increase.
Famously, Reagan did not cave to their strike demands, their union demands. He just cleared the whole rotten pinko bunch out. Like, you got to cut out the rot. If you can't let that shit spread, you got to cut it out at the root.
Just the most fucking blatantly toxic shit.
Yeah,
Once
it's
again,
crazy.
you have to fucking accept that that's the right move.
Yep.
Just lowered everybody's standard of living.
If they're not back-
in one sweeping reform, all of us have less because of this.
Yep.
And the movie just doesn't tell you that. It shows you that.
He's a very
it tells you
important
that's what
man.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're still supposed to think that that's correct and good.
You're just supposed
Yeah.
to be like a harbor seal.
The country
Reagan.
needed someone to stand up to the unions, and they got it, finally.
It's about time.
So we meet his new Secretary of State, George Shultz, played by Xander Berkeley here, who's a pretty good actor. Well, he offers some jelly beans, which he always kept a
yeah.
huge jar of.
That's how you can tell about a man.
Yeah. I guess he used them to quit smoking.
Okay.
He's like, yeah, you can tell a lot about a man by how he takes jelly beans. And I'm like, give me a fucking break.
Fuck off.
I just smashed that fucking jar of jelly beans over his head. If one of you said that to
Yeah.
me, I'd.
What if you refuse the jelly beans? What would that say to
I can
Reagan?
tell a lot about you how you eat your jelly beans like that. Some fellas, well, they take a big old whopping handful, and other fellas, they pick and choose.
Why don't you tell me that through broken teeth, motherfucker? Anyway, George Schultz takes one and he's like, so you're a decisive man. You won't mind telling me if you disagree. That's what I want in my cabinet.
You passed the audition.
Yeah. Now get to the casting couch.
Nancy, wheel out the casting couch.
We'll see if you're a throat.
I'll sit in the corner.
Haven't cleaned it since the 1940s.
Cuck me, Nancy.
I heard you really get around Washington, George Schultz.
I'll just sit here and put my hand over my mouth and just kind of shake my head.
I wish I could have got a blowy from her.
Oh, me too. It's not too late.
Yeah, she's still around, isn't she?
No.
Oh.
I mean, it's not too late.
It's not
Still
too late.
God.
This isn't the first time this podcast has touched necrophilia. I'm sure it won't be the last.
No.
Too much teeth.
Won't be the last. Rest assured. Good God. So, now, to understand Reagan as a middle-aged man, we need to flash back again to when he was a child.
Just get a random scene.
There's one thing I forgot from before he was a lifeguard.
Oh, yeah, he was beat up by bullies.
One time, some bullies, they cornered him. They probably kicked his ass.
Yeah, we don't see it happen. We just see like 8 bullies surround Reagan as a kid as his mom watches from the kitchen window.
Well, she doesn't let him into the house. She's like, you got to go and face your bullies, Ronnie.
Right.
And she locks the door, and then Reagan just goes off to fucking get the shit pounded out of him, I'm sure.
Watches
What
him
a
through the
great mother.
shutters. Yeah. She was a very important figure in his life. She taught him all these important lessons.
No wonder he was fucking demented as an adult.
They
Jesus
beat
Christ.
me. My brain looks like Swiss cheese after they beat me.
Mommy watched them beat me up every single day. I'm used to fighting bullies like these Mr. Gorbachev and Brezhnev.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if those head injuries that he sustained getting bullied by
Yeah.
these kids
That's why he got
didn't
dementia.
contribute. Yeah.
Yeah. That's why he can't remember.
They
That's why
gave me critical brain damage.
the
The Gipper persevered. I can't speak much more than a 4th grade level now, but it seems to be working. The people seem to like me.
It resonates.
Mr. Reagan, what were you saying? I like jelly beans.
You could tell a lot.
You
about
want
a
some more jelly beans?
Jelly beans used to be important to me.
Here comes Reagan's famous jelly bean speech. Well, the green ones, sometimes they're green apple, sometimes they're grape. You can never tell until you bite into a jelly bean.
Sir, we're asking you about the Air Traffic Controllers Union.
Well, sometimes when you're on an airplane, they might give you a bag of jelly beans. I know that I like to keep them on Air Force One. That's the plane the president gets to fly around in.
All right, forget it. Pack it up, everybody. Let's go.
When I walk onto the plane, everybody calls me sir, and they're very nice to me. Very kind-hearted folk, and you know what? Those air traffic controllers, they do a good job, but I'll fire every single one of them.
Jesus Christ.
Seems to me if they take 10% of our jelly beans, we still have lots of jelly beans to eat.
Good Lord only asked for 10% of our jelly beans.
Well, these are the old cruddy jelly beans before Jelly Belly came around. You didn't have any fancy pina colada flavors.
That's what I was thinking. I'm looking at them jelly beans. I'm like, those are the shitty ones. Jelly beans suck ass unless they're Jelly Bellies. Those ones are super good. So anyway, he this is the war of words, as he calls it. So he resolves with his speechwriters that he's going to win a war without firing a single shot. And that's the war against global communism.
I'll just sell the guns to the people to fire the shots for me. The American people don't need to be seen doing it.
And he's framing it like the important conflict it is, where he's like, I'm going to fight the biggest war this country's ever fought. It's against communism.
He paraphrases C.S. Lewis at length here. I know my dad is a big fan of C.S. Lewis and these writings and these tapes too and all this philosophy. Obviously, C.S. Lewis wrote the Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah, that's all I've read from him.
Quite an evangelical Christian and hardline conservative and anti-communist.
I read the Chronicles of Narnia in like grade 4 or 5, something like that. And even that, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy loves Christianity. He loves God. And
this lion is really Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really
beats
subtle.
you over the head with it. Yeah.
But, I mean, pretty good writer nonetheless.
I like those books. It's a rich world.
Always enjoyed them.
But the C.S. Lewis quote, or at least the biggest part of it, is beware the temptation to ignore the facts of history and aggressive impulses of an evil empire.
Empire.
He speaks that, and he calls the USSR, in so many words, an evil empire, which was a controversial thing at the time, I suppose.
That's a pretty ironic quote in the context of this movie. Beware the temptation to ignore the facts of history and aggressive impulses of an evil empire. Boy, that's like describing this movie and America. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's sheer projection.
Well, you don't need to look in the mirror when you're always shining it at the other person.
Yeah. There's just no awareness.
It's crazy.
This movie is
amazing.
made by and for people with frontal lobotomies.
And again, there's so little awareness that it still occasionally pings those satire bells in my head where I'm like, okay, that has to be intentional. But no, it's just that little awareness.
And then he goes on to describe the SDI initiative.
I saw a movie. It was about a big man named Chewbacca. They fire laser beams in space. I thought maybe we could fire a laser beam in space to knock out a missile.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Which is obviously a complete fiction. It was derisively dubbed the Star Wars program by his opponents and critics.
It shows that
Petrovich, so the young man talking to Petrovich is like, but Star Wars, it wasn't real. They did not have the technology. And Petrovich is like, it didn't matter. You see, Ronald Reagan, he was
a
very
genius.
smart.
The smartest man.
So he lied? Yeah, no, I would say he was characteristically optimistic.
Ronald Reagan, very smart.
his genius
Soviet
politicking.
Russia, so very dumb.
So
So stupid.
All the Soviets,
We didn't stand a chance.
like the Soviets are pissing and shitting their pants simultaneously at the news of this Star Wars program.
Fucking Brezhnev's just like shitting bricks while Reagan's on the TV
Yeah.
going. And then R2D2 came up and he stuck his plug in the little socket and he was able to open the door.
and the
And we're going to open the door for all Americans.
Yeah,
I think they said that, I know we're setting it as him being Star Wars, but they're like, he got the idea from a movie he starred in called from 1940.
yeah.
He's using his acting.
He started the movie much more important, much more relevant than these Star Wars could ever be.
What is Star Wars? I don't know do they even say Star Wars in the movie?
No, it's just how.
I think they don't say Star Wars
Yeah,
in this movie.
they probably weren't allowed to. Disney
funny.
was
And
like,
Star Wars is just-
Disney's like, oh, heard you're making a Reagan movie. I'm just going to preemptively serve you these papers that you can't say Star Wars in your fucking
I know
Reagan
George
movie.
Lucas sold the rights, but he's still their little fucking bulldog. Like, you better not say Star Wars, motherfucker. I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to fucking shit on your grave.
it's got nothing to do with Star Wars.
Yeah, I just want you to know that the word star and the word wars have to be at least 8 words apart anytime in this movie, motherfucker. You've been served.
I'm going back for another piece in Nancy. I don't care that she's dead. I'm George fucking
billionaire.
Lucas. I'll fuck her again.
Yeah. You get to a certain income level and, regular morality just goes out the window. you can't be satisfied by normal life.
Jack
anymore.
Warner? Jack Warner's a little bitch compared to me. I'm George fucking Lucas, you son of a bitch.
You heard of Epstein's Island? Well, this is Lucas's cemetery.
I'll fucking bury you.
I'll bury you, I'll dig you up, I'll do my business, then I'll bury you again.
I'll bury you under the cemetery.
And Mickey just sitting on a chair in the corner. Oh, I can't believe he's doing this.
I'm public domain.
Steamboat Willie. I fuck Nancy too. There's tapes.
Get him, cowboy.
So stupid. So yeah, now we see tensions escalate further between the U.S. and Soviet Union when the Soviet interceptor planes shoot down a commercial passenger plane. It was going from, I think, New York to Seoul, South Korea.
Oh.
And it had flown over the Arctic Circle. If you've ever flown to Asia, you fly way over Russia
Yeah.
and Siberia to get to even Japan. Yeah, so
This was a famous diplomatic incident.
Yeah.
The Russians shoot down this commercial airliner as it's flying through their territory. It's portrayed in such an evil way here where like the Russians are like zeroing in on it and somebody's like radioing to the Russian pilot like, I think it's a commercial airliner, and he's like, all the better to kill it.
It's really...
yeah, they're like, but this is clearly just a passenger plane. And it's like, shoot it down.
You could hear like the people begging and screaming.
No.
Music to my evil Russian ears. Kill them.
Cartoonishly evil.
Yeah.
I'll shoot down more passenger planes. I like it.
Yeah, we even see a kid on board, like a little girl sleeping with her teddy bear.
Yeah. As the plane is going down, you hear everybody screaming on the plane.
Yeah,
They're like,
you see it from like a distance as the plane is blowing up and like falling through the clouds. And
Can you
Russian
believe...
flies off. So good. Scream louder.
so now we get that tense scene where they're talking about like exchanging missiles. It's DEFCON 1, like, and Reagan has this vision. It like literally floats in to see his mind's eye, goes like zooms in on his eye, and we see what an exchange of intercontinental ballistic missiles between the U.S. and Soviet Union would look like. We see nukes come flying out and hitting Manhattan and stuff.
Yeah, the end of the world in Reagan's eye.
Yeah, he's got the nuclear codes out, and they've got this little readout screen that's like this little computer map, and it says civilian casualties, and you see like Boston getting lit up, and Los Angeles and San Francisco.
There's like an incident where a bunch of geese blow in, and it like sets off the radars that the Russians are sending nuclear weapons or something, and Reagan is so tense, and that's where he's like looking at these screens that are like showing projections of all of America getting wiped out in a nuclear holocaust, and he's like, and it's
Did
just
that really
it's
happen?
the
I
geese.
wonder.
I know that
With the geese?
like those incidents have happened a few times throughout history. Like famously, there's this one. There was a guy in Russia who was in charge of the button pusher for the nukes, and something set off a radar signal for him where he was supposed to press that button, but it just didn't make sense to him. He was like, tensions aren't there right now between our countries.
Oh,
And
thank
that
goodness
guy is-
that people like that have a head on their shoulders sometimes.
that
I'm
could have been an unhinged idiot.
he
but
got
that
fired
guy-
for that because his
didn't
job
follow
was
orders.
like you were supposed to press the button in that scenario and you didn't, so now you're fired basically.
Well, I mean, it's the military. They have
I mean, like that
That's-
was your role.
That's how the masterpiece War Games starts. There's a couple people sitting in a U.S. missile silo, and they're supposed to push a button, and they don't. And they're like, well, we need to bring in this artificial intelligence, this computer to run all of our nuke programs.
the only way to play is not to win.
It's like tic-tac-toe.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy.
It's like the SALT treaties.
Yeah, needless to say, there is no nuclear exchange. Tensions de-escalate. Now we cut to election 1984, and we get this 80s montage set to Genesis's Land of Confusion. We even see
Great song.
Great fucking song.
Yeah.
Great video, too.
Yeah, funny
Yeah.
video.
And the video is critical of it. I'm surprised they got the license from this song.
Yeah.
I would have thought Phil Collins would tell him to piss up a fucking electric fence.
Yeah, Phil Collins has like Disney money.
Anyway,
It's
it's funny too in this scene because it's showing all these criticisms of Reagan. It doesn't address any of them. It's like, oh, look, he's deregulating big pharma and like deregulating vaccinations, and he's defunding public schools, and he's breaking all these fucking unions, and
Finally.
everybody's protesting him. And I'm like, well, then maybe they're right. It's just it mentions Nancy Reagan like being the figurehead of the war on drugs.
Just say no.
Yeah.
It just mentions the war on drugs.
everything horrible in the last like century, half century of
You know-
American
you know
Once
what?
again,
politics.
doesn't reckon with how that is
This movie's
a
very-
catastrophic fucking failure.
This movie's
Everyone
fair.
knows that.
This movie's balanced. It shows you that not everything was peaches and cream. He had a bit of struggles to go through.
Sometimes it was cream and cream. Sometimes
There were some bad things, everybody.
Just-
Maybe he could have done a bit better, and this movie acknowledges that.
Insane.
It takes
That
the
it
time
shows
to
you
show
this-
that to you, and that's fair. That's fair, and that's unbiased filmmaking because it tells both sides of the story.
And we're all human. We all make mistakes. Not Reagan, but most of
No,
us do.
Not Reagan, not some other Republican candidates.
And the AIDS crisis is another big one in there.
God.
Like it just it
Oh,
gives
my
us a
God.
litany of his failures.
Yeah.
All of those things are complete. They take complete backseat to the real threat, communism.
Yeah.
Man, so they threw so many failures
Just
at us in
a
this
complete
montage.
straw man ghost. Something that never was a threat and doesn't fucking exist. Meanwhile, people are
defeated
fucking
it.
starving to death.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
and
maybe
dying
all those
for love.
welfare queens shouldn't have got addicted to crack.
And they're just locking up fucking innocent people.
My God, AIDS was horrific.
Yeah, they did nothing. They wanted all those fucking gays in New York City and everywhere to die.
Well, as long as it's
well,
only the gays spreading
did-
amongst the gays.
All of those documents are declassified. We know this as a
Yeah.
fact. And the movie does nothing to tell us that.
I read the reports. I got the statistics. They don't vote for me.
No.
What a piece of trash.
Yeah. So Mondale is climbing in the polls, and it's fucking insane that Mondale didn't beat him. But not even close.
Because Reagan had a
Not
good joke.
even close. Landslide victory.
Yeah, I'd kind of forgotten that those electoral college numbers ended up being so strong.
Yeah,
in
it was
Reagan's favor.
shocking. There was like one state that was blue, right?
It's
And
incomprehensible. by
otherwise a red
today's standards.
wave.
Yeah, he's kind of struggling on the pulpit. Like his mind is already slipping by the time he's running for re-election.
Yeah, and he's kind of not. He doesn't have the same zeal he had before. He's not as quick on the ball, and he's slipping in the debate. He doesn't have his punchy one-liners. He just keeps talking about jelly beans. Well,
It's like he's got folksy wisdom. No,
Well-
he's losing his mind.
what if we just change the way people cast their votes? We have 2 jars. And you take a jelly bean and you put it in the jar of the person you want to win. It seems to me that's the simplest, best way to do it.
The biggest issue of our time is whether a green jelly bean should be apple or lime.
I heard green jelly beans are an aphrodisiac. Is that true? But I wonder if
Well, Nancy, are they?
Nancy, are you going to take out the green jelly beans tonight? I'm feeling particularly frisky.
These green jelly beans remind me of your weird green nipples, Nancy.
did you guys ever?
Nancy, why don't you milk me like that weird green-nippled Star Wars thing? You know I love Star Wars.
Wait, we can't say Star Wars.
That was the best.
I
part
heard
of
that, motherfucker. I'm going to come over to your house.
I'm gonna fuck your corpse.
I'm going to come over and dig up your grave and put my fucking nuts on your chin, motherfucker.
Milk these.
I have nipples, Greg. Can you milk me?
I have green nipples, Greg.
George Lucas has green nipples.
Just like Nancy
He's got
Reagan.
blue milk.
Green nipples, blue milk. That's how I was born.
Yeah, Nancy Reagan's a lot like Aunt Beru when you think about it.
Well, she just comes in. She pours us a nice tall glass of blue milk. I heard that, motherfucker. That milk better be white.
That's trademarked.
Every episode, we have some really bizarre tangent that we only find funny.
George Lucas, what are you doing in this politics episode?
So, yeah, he's stumbling as they're doing a mock debate. And they're like, hey, Ronnie, what's your favorite movie?
Well,
And he's
Star. George Lucas in the corner just looking at him.
not today, motherfucker.
The Sound of Music.
yeah, it's just, my favorite movie's a space movie I was in
Well,
the 40s.
listen, Ronald, why don't you go watch Sound of Music with your wife, okay?
Mommy? With Mommy?
Yeah.
There's a really thing like this. It stuck out to me just when he's debating Mondale there, and he gets his little. This is a famous Reagan soundbite where they ask during the debate if age is going to be an issue in this campaign,
Yes,
and
he's
Reagan
the oldest
gets
incumbent to ever run for president.
which is so funny with our
Until
our
now.
current political
Oh, yeah, he was a
landscape.
spring chicken compared
Yeah.
to Biden and Trump, but...
But like he gets a little slam dunk line where he says, "I'm not going to make age an issue in this campaign. I'm not going to make my opponent's inexperience an issue in this campaign."
I won't hold it against him.
I will not exploit.
But this is the weirdest shot. Like, we were watching this, it almost looked like Mondale was actual news footage in the background. And then you have Reagan, Dennis Quaid Reagan in the foreground looking really weird and digital, like really crisp. And it was...
I think they Forrest Gumped it. I think they
might have gumped
spliced in the Mondale.
No religion either.
Because Mondale
Yeah.
laughs even and just hands the election of, okay, I give up.
well,
you got me,
yeah,
Reagan.
that
One
line
clip.
was too good. I concede.
He just laughs his ass off. So he wins re-election, second term, same as the first, a little bit more senile, a little worse. By the time of Reagan's second term, Brezhnev's successors had died in office. We just have a montage that's supposed to be kind of funny. It's like, oh, well, now he's the new head of the Soviet Union, and a couple months later, he's fucking dead, and
They all drink like fish and smoke like a chimney, and they're all coughing and hacking up a lung as they're sitting in there, whatever the Russian
Reagan
Andropov or whatever. He's got like 3 cigarettes going at once,
Yeah.
and then it just cuts to his funeral.
How can he broker a peace if they keep dying on him?
Yeah. And now we get a visit from UK Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. of
About
course.
time.
One of his, a great friend to Reagan and political ally.
She'll come and she has tea parties with him where they're drinking tea, and she fills him in on the world gossip where she's like, "Oh, this guy called you a cowboy," and I told Gorbachev is a very unusual Russian, but I told him you're a very unusual kind of American." And she's like his bridge to these other countries, kind of. He's the leader of the free world, you understand, not just America. So the Japanese prime minister's all up in his business. They love him. Thatcher's all up in his business. Everybody loves him.
Nobody else will talk to me, Maggie. What are they saying about me on the playground?
Well, they say you're quite the American cowboy. I'm an Iron Lady. Yeah. Well, what do they say? Well, they say.
They said the presidents of France and Spain are planning to pull down your pants on the playground tomorrow and say, "I see Paris, I see France, I see Ronnie's underpants."
Well, I know how to deal with a bully. Get beaten up by them.
Cut to Ronald Reagan's mother's ghost just locking the door and watch him get the shit kicked out of him by
Can't run away.
Yeah.
Mr.
Brian Mulrooney's just fucking pounding his face into the sand, giving him fucking pink belly.
Well, even Mulrooney's dunking on you. You're not very popular.
You ever had a face wash? It's a Canadian thing. Puts his face in the snow.
Oh, that fucking hurts.
Yeah, that's
When
snow.
you get the big crystallized fucking snow.
If it's soft, fluffy snow, it's not bad. But if there's been a bit of a freeze thaw,
Oh, man.
It's like Botox.
Done that to some friends and had it done to me plenty. That fucking kills.
get your face just
Ended
covered
the
in
friendship.
tiny little cuts all over.
Microdermabrasion.
Yeah, a lot of big Hollywood folks pay extra for that
Yeah.
treatment. We get it for free up north here.
That's why Dennis Quaid looks so weird in this movie. He did that before filming.
So we get the Geneva Summit in 1985. And they're hosted by this Baron, right? This Baron's kid left his goldfish in Reagan's room, I guess. What's that about? Just welcoming him and being like, take care of my fucking goldfish, you senile fuck.
I get the impression it's like probably just like the nicest house in the entire country. It's like this, so this Baron is just offering it up, but
Sure.
it's got.
I don't know why the goldfish, though.
You're gonna trust the senile old fuck to feed your goldfish?
I guess.
Well,
I guess that's
What
what
thing's
it's
cat food by the end of the week.
I can still do some things on my own. I'll take care of this fish.
it's actually Ronald
This
Reagan's.
pays off.
You can't feed a fish jelly beans, Mr. President. They keep choking and dying.
You can tell a lot about a fish by what jelly beans it eats.
Have some more jelly beans, Nancy. Ronald, that is not your wife. That is a goldfish.
It's his only failure in the movie is that he fails to feed this goldfish and it dies. Everything else, he's been a hero.
He
He's
had
been a
no
great success.
qualms with countless deaths in all of his other ventures, but this one goldfish made
Yeah.
a difference.
Well, no, he does own up to his failure
Yeah.
on this.
It's a
as
learning
he does
opportunity.
with the Iran-Contra, which is coming right up.
It's a chance to show his character because Nancy suggests, well, we could just buy another goldfish and replace it, which makes sense. So, a dumb little kid.
Dishonest.
Probably can't tell. But yeah, Reagan insists. He's like, I'm going to write a note of apology. And I'm going to leave it for that little boy. Mm-hmm. He's going to understand I am a stalwart person.
May as well close the book on this story, because at the very end of the credits, if you stay all the way through, we get a child's voice reading a letter from that boy, which I'm sure is a real letter. And it's like, Dear Mr. Reagan, I love you so much. I want to suck your dick.
Yeah. My fish was
It's okay.
stupid.
Yeah, he's like, fish die all the time. That was so nice of you to say. I killed your fish for fucking it and feeding it jelly beans.
So it turns out even Reagan's failure was not his fault.
So Petrovich is like, the Crusader, and Petrovich is here in the talks.
He wasn't afraid to kill a goldfish. He wasn't afraid to kill communism.
He had us at a disadvantage. He looked better than the general secretary. I saw a gentle smile. It never left his face.
Yeah.
It was disarming.
Yeah, it's
He's so gay for Reagan.
It's so fucking weird how he's making this younger politician listen to him while he pounds off in the shower describing Ronald Reagan's life to him.
Listeners, I just wish you could see John Voight's face as this voiceover's going. He's like, ugh.
We actually didn't even talk about how
Lip
awful
quivering.
John Voight looks when they. I don't know what they do to his face for the scenes in the past, but it's John Voight, puffy John Voight, and they kind of just like
puffy alcoholic face.
just like they kind of like pull his skin back so his cheeks are kind of shut like apple bottom cheek, and he's got the
Apple
worst.
bottom cheeks and the boots with the fur.
He's got
He also
half a
looks
can
like
of
a
shoe
Cenobite.
polish on his face. He's got full on Seagal goatee action going on here.
Yeah, he looks insane.
It's unreal what they do to him. And I had to look at him like, did John Voight play him as a young man? That doesn't look like a person. Are you sure they didn't just like drag out a mannequin or something? Like,
It's disturbing. It's uncanny valley. It's a little bit of the same thing going on with Dennis Quaid, but worse.
Voight's been good in some stuff. I mean, he's my favorite thing about this movie, but
He
next
was
to
in,
maybe the Bob Dylan song at the end. But
yeah,
he is so bad in this, and he's always just staring off into the middle distance.
yeah, and I mean, I don't think anybody could have made his role great. He's the voiceover narrator there to jerk Reagan off, basically. Nobody's gonna be able to make that a great role.
I saw a gentle smile. It never left his face. It was disarmed.
Yeah.
It's like a romance novel.
Yeah. And it's the thing where what they always say about Nixon versus
pulled me up
Kennedy,
close.
where like Kennedy was so handsome and that's why he beat Nixon, because on TV Nixon looks schlubby. That's kind of what they're saying here is like he already won the war because he was so much more handsome than the Russian leadership, and then his ideas and his cool demeanor were just like really drove the nail home.
Reagan.
Dennis Quaid looks like they plucked him off 20 years of living on the streets.
Yeah.
I mean, Gorbachev looks like a nice, normal human being.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Reagan was created in Hollywood. He's a monster built in a lab.
Reagan pulled me in close. I could feel his bulging muscles just underneath his impeccably tailored suit. His best suit, better than anything you ever find in Russia.
I got weak in knees when he pulled me closer and we pressed our lips together. I could feel with this soft ecstasy as his tongue slipped slowly into my mouth and he rubbed it along the front of my teeth and then he stuck it deep down. And I was still standing there frozen until I gave in and had to kiss him back.
My knees buckled, and what did I see before me but throbbing American manhood?
I says, "Is this a French kiss, Mr. President?" And he said, "This is an American kiss."
I'll show you how we kiss in America. Now we're going to put up this wall. I'm going to saw a little hole in the middle of it. And we're just going to be two friends on either side of the wall. And we're going to see what happens.
Oi, we're going to the glory hole.
I'm going to teach you something Maggie showed me across the pond.
Have you ever been to a glory hole, Mr. President?
Tune in to High and Low After Dark to hear the rest of our Petrovich Reagan fan fiction /fic.
Yeah, big time /fic.
Yeah.
This is the gayest movie we've covered. Yes.
There's, it's weird. Lots of times when you watch a movie, you got the issue of the male gaze just objectifying women.
Yeah.
This is, of all the movies we've done so far, the one that objectifies a male in every sense of the word more than anything else. What a man. You're just like...
And yet it is a very chaste movie. It's like Reagan might as well be a eunuch in this movie. For a guy who has 5 kids, there's just like... I mean, he'll give Nancy a good kiss on the forehead every now and then, and they do a smooch every now and then, but it's like, it is such a sexless movie. I want to see, I want to see this throat goat stuff. I want to see it.
Oh, man. Somebody needs to make that movie.
Yeah, I want to see the real story.
Have just a bunch of character actors playing other famous actors as they like tell their inside Hollywood stories to Nancy Reagan, who's just this nobody who's fucking and sucking her way through the fucking backlots of Hollywood.
Who's a contemporary of Reagan? Like Errol Flynn or someone? Like, is that who Nancy would have been going around?
Bogart, probably.
Bogart,
Holy
Bogey.
shit.
Yeah. Jeez. I don't
Yeah,
know.
because he was like acting in
Jimmy
the 1940s.
Stewart was around.
Oh, Nancy, take it easy on my balls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Work the shaft and cup the balls.
They're fragile like eggs, Nancy. Don't scramble them. Oh, easy. Don't scramble them now. Over easy.
Shuck it again, Nance.
I'll be powerful one day, Nancy.
Shuck it as time goes by.
Leave Jimmy Stewart. Join me. You can be Queen of America, and I'll be its king.
Now we're getting into some debates back and forth between
Yeah.
Reagan, and he's found a formidable opponent in Gorbachev.
Yeah, the talks kind of hit a wall and everybody's arguing right off the bat. And then this is where he uses his acting.
Yeah.
He just kind of gets up. He's looking exasperated. And he's like, well, back in Hollywood, if a take wasn't going so good, here's a little something we would try. And he opens up the door and closes it. And then he goes back over to Mikhail and he's like, hi, Mikhail. My name's Ron. It's nice to meet you. He just reintroduces himself to reset the tone. He's like, why don't we go for a walk?
This little acting exercise has just totally changed the vibe of the room. Gorbachev is so receptive to this charming American. Everybody's bonding now. Like all the Russian, Gorbachev's got his Russian clique, and they're kind of bonding with Reagan's American clique. And they're like, hey, I like movies too.
I like baseball. I like the New York Yankees.
Yankees. Huh?
Yeah, the Secretary of State's like, well, next time you come to the States, I'll make sure to get you in for a game.
Coca-Cola is tasty.
Yeah.
After all.
Because deep down, that's all they want to do is watch American sports and
wear
eat
blue jeans.
Fucking fast food.
Maybe one day our people can eat Big Mac.
Yeah.
You can give us Big Mac.
That was the narrative. That was the narrative I was told growing up. Was like,
I learned that in
they had
school.
a hamburger for the first time. Oh, how they love hamburger.
Yeah.
Oh, they've been eating rats and nails for fucking 30 years. And then they had a McDonald's hamburger and it fucking caused the fall of communism. Like, give me a break. Yeah. We get a phone call from Nakasone. He's like, you speak for us in Japan too. And he's like, I understand, Mr. Prime Minister Nakasone.
Yeah.
You're surrounded by communists.
Yeah.
You know better.
It's so I'm glad you understand
You're
the
my
stakes.
friend.
We have allies across the world.
Yeah.
And he's like, remember, communists have no problem lying to achieve their goals, Mr. President.
They're dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, Gorbachev's gonna try to steamroll over you. You have to stand strong, Reagan. You have to be that warrior against communism who can stand strong when the Soviets try their trickery.
Yeah. And so, yeah, Reagan and Gorbachev, they're on pretty friendly terms, but he's still reluctant to sign the agreement due to his support for the SDI, the Star Wars.
That's right. You better call it SDI, motherfucker.
Yeah.
I'm watching you.
Fuck you, pay me.
It's a bizarre scene. Yeah. It's a sticking point, the Star Wars initiative,
Is
the
that-
SDI program.
That's what we call like herpes and gonorrhea these days, right? They're SDIs.
STIs.
STIs. Okay.
I should know.
close enough.
Yeah. Mr. President, please drop the SDI.
He's just
And
got
then
a
he gets to say
demented
the
look.
line. He's fucking demented, and this is all he wants to do
It's like,
is power trip and fucking lie.
yeah, the smile won't drop from his face. He looks like a puppet or something.
But this was his whole psychotic ambition, was to look the leader of the Soviet Union in the eyes and say,
Niet.
So I don't think we discussed what these talks are about, and it's the pretty much total disarmament of nuclear weapons. Like
Yeah.
he's like, we'll get rid of our nuclear bombs, you get rid of your nuclear bombs. All we want is you to just give us the skinny on this fictitious program you have.
yeah. Gorbachev said he would disarm the entire Soviet Union.
He's like,
and
let's-
Reagan was like, we can cut our nukes in half. And Gorbachev counteroffered with, why don't we get rid of all the fucking nukes? And
Yeah.
Reagan is like, Niet, fuck you.
Yeah.
I have to own you in some way because my fucking ego is more important than entire nuclear disarmament.
And it's so weird because, like, Reagan won them over with his little actor exercise earlier, and all for nothing because he's just there to say niet.
Yet. So and
It's all his ego.
one thing,
Yeah.
among many things, this movie doesn't touch on at all is the fact that during Reagan's terms as president, he like tripled the national debt because he just started
yeah.
dumping
Yes.
so much money into national defense and the military while gutting
Which-
every single social program he could.
Ironically, that's always the case with Republican presidents. Democrats are always better on the budget because, the conventional wisdom is that Republicans are for the economy and Democrats spend on social programs. But then when you actually look at it, Republicans always add to the deficit and Democrats always reduce the deficit. And the last time the budget was balanced was under Clinton.
Yeah. Well, penny wise, pound foolish. We can cut benefits to disabled veterans. We can cut public schools. We can cut Medicaid. But God help us, we're going to triple the fucking defense budget and build more nukes for some fucking reason. They had 35,000 nukes.
So ask yourself, are you better off 4 years ago than you were today?
Yet.
Niet.
This is a political episode, guys.
This is a mic drop moment for Reagan, though. Like, he's just like,
Oh, God, he's so fucking self-satisfied.
Yeah, and Gorbachev is trailing in his wake like, wait, you're really going to let this deal fall apart?
Are you a fucking idiot?
I was bluffing. Oh, no. Mr. Reagan, please. I have to go. Niet. I already said niet. That was my final word on the subject.
It's like a toddler.
It's the only Russian word he knows.
his handler's just shaking a jar of jelly beans just outside the door. Well, Mr. Gorbachev, time for me to go.
Would you like some jelly beans, Gorbachev?
Would you like some milk? It's blue.
I'm watching you, motherfucker. I'll break your fucking kneecaps with a crowbar.
So we haven't even gotten to Iran-Contra, which is now...
A minor blip.
Yeah, so a year later, the Iran-Contra scandal breaks, and we even get a scene where he is told by all of his advisors, okay, you're going to illegally sell weapons, you're not going to inform the House of Representatives about this or get any congressional approval,
Yeah.
and you're going to illegally sell weapons to these fucking so-called freedom fighters.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
And then he plays stupid
Boy.
about it, even to his own advisors in the next fucking scenes.
That's another thing this movie does that, like, so much worse than Lincoln, where Lincoln does just such a great job of showing just the tendrils of the politics stretching out in every direction. Whereas, like, for every moment in Reagan's career, they have a scene where there's a guy in a room, like, laying the stakes down. Like, wait, Reagan, you can't give this speech now because this is going to happen. They just, like, ratchet up the drama so much. And there's all these scenes where you know this stuff in real life played out over months and through multiple meetings, but they'll frame it in such a way where it's like it'll be a scene with him and Nancy, and it's a super important. I can't think of any specific examples, but
Well, that's the thing. In this lobotomized hagiography, the score is telling us one thing. It's telling us that what he's doing is good and triumphant.
Yeah.
But it's also just kind of showing us the events of what's
Yeah.
happening. And if you're applying any critical thinking to it, you're just wondering what the fuck is
Yeah.
going on here. Like
if you
I know
understand,
we keep bearing down on this point, but it
Yeah.
makes no sense.
it bears bearing down on. But
You just need to accept that Ronald Reagan was always right in everything he did, and he never
Even when he was
wavered.
wrong.
Even when he was wrong, he was right. Actually,
Yeah.
If you look at history, do you know?
Yeah.
Do you know history?
why we wouldn't be where we are today?
Not really.
if
I'm
not
no
for him.
historian. I know a little bit about Ronald Reagan.
I saw a little movie
History's
called
too
Reagan, and it showed me that he was the best and he was
Yeah.
the rightest guy. So yeah, Iran Contra.
So, yeah.
They're
we get-
calling for his impeachment, right? Because he lied. That's what it's all about, right?
This is one of the few scenes where Nancy actually gets to speak, and she's being a shrill fucking harpy on Air Force One to him about it. They want to see you burn. They hate you. They hate what you say, what you believe in, who you are. Who?
Everybody.
Yeah.
And to me, this is like if you're watching this movie and you want to take something away from it, it's this little bit here that they hate you for your opinions and you're right in
Yeah.
going through. You are right.
It's a dog whistle, and it's it's about Trump too. But like we know, we're watching this movie with 2024 eyes. We've seen a couple presidents get impeached.
Yeah.
What do you think happens to them? Are they fucking executed in the town square?
No. It's
Do they go to jail? No.
at most it's a bit of a public shaming.
Yeah.
As
It's
it turns
ridiculous
out.
how she's fucking acting about it.
And there's a few moments of her role in this movie is basically to defend Reagan because Reagan sometimes he's such a good guy that he can't stand up for himself. Like there's the scene where he's a little tired earlier and his people are filling his head with crazy numbers and he just needs to go watch Sound of a Music with Nancy, and she kind of tells off some of his cabinet, and she's like, you're filling his head with all kinds of crazy. You just have to let Ronnie be Ronnie.
Ronnie be Ronnie.
Yeah.
He can't know about policy.
No.
Let Ronnie go watch Sesame Street with his wife.
You know he's barely functional at this point. Like, please stop filling his head with numbers.
Fucked in the head. So yeah, he did that whole thing. We do not negotiate with terrorists, and we did not trade arms for hostages. So he lied on TV in front of everybody. We've seen it happen.
Yeah. And then the hilarious moment, which I think a lot of people have probably seen too. I've watched this YouTube video before of him then giving his famous, it turned out it actually did happen.
Yeah.
My heart tells me it didn't happen, but the truth and the facts tell me it did happen.
I said what I believe to be the truth, and it turns out that it was a bald-faced lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which when you watch...
You take your knocks. You put things in perspective. You pull your energies together. You make changes, and you go forward.
It was a learning opportunity. It wasn't a failure.
Not backward, not forward, but always twirling towards freedom.
Every winner is also a loser because you have to lose to learn to be a winner.
Yeah. And of course he wouldn't listen to any of his advisors on this, or even his fucking stupid wife. He listens to his friend Bill the rancher, who advises him to tell the truth and own up to his mistake.
Well, sometimes being an American president's a lot like being ahead of 100 steer cattle.
It's a lot like castrating 100 cattle.
Yeah. And Petrovich, he's like, Americans, you look them in the eye, admit you made a mistake. They forgive you every time. And the young communist guy,
rich.
the other guy who's talking to him, he's like, but he had to know. And Petrovich hands him a picture of Ron in a bathing suit. That one he's always pounding off to.
Look at this man.
See-
Look at this bulging physique.
Yeah, and what he says is he was still a lifeguard. He was going to get his people
All this
home.
time.
They're
It's
really
like-
milking this lifeguard thing for
So-
all that it's worth.
So he did something wrong, but also he was right in doing it, and he lied in doing it, but also it was good that he lied.
Yeah. Much like how Lincoln had to consider black people property in order to,
Yeah.
even though he didn't actually. Yeah. Genius.
Politics is complicated. I'm not even going to pretend to know what I'm talking about.
But it's hilarious. All I could think about, because Petrovic, he gives his speech about how Americans, you look them in the eye, they'll forgive you every time.
That's true.
I was just like thinking of the Green Goblin
Unless you get a
speech in
blowjob.
Spider-Man, where Willem Dafoe is like, Americans, they love nothing more than watching a hero die, fail, or die trying.
That's
We
true,
could get
too.
rid of our nuclear bombs, or we could destroy.
Keep on tearing the world. Reagan's like, yes.
You know, for all of his courage, it's amazing nobody took him down, right? It's almost like he had the backing of every oligarch in the country, the fucking FBI, the CIA, all of
Yeah.
it from the start. He had, a CIA operative, George Bush Sr., working in his fucking, as his vice president. Like, it's just
Crazy.
so funny how this movie just keeps painting him as an underdog.
Truly. When he
Yeah.
has,
When he ruined people's lives who fucking criticized him.
He's
on
the guy,
regular.
man.
Him and his friends.
He's the main character.
Oh, man.
He did it all himself. That's the most impressive
if
part.
ever there's been a main character in a movie, it's this fucking guy.
So now we get to a climactic moment.
It's what we've all been waiting for communism to finally
Yes.
get its ass kicked,
Yeah.
be defeated.
Boy, I got so excited right away when the first whiffs of this were coming. Like,
I was sitting here watching it with you. We're pumping our fucking
Yeah.
fists. We're cheering. We're laughing.
it's like a.
It's such a buildup. You've been waiting for it. You
Yeah.
all know the line.
It was like watching our team in the fucking Stanley Cup Finals, man. We were
It's like,
fucking
oh
into
shit.
it.
Is it gonna happen? Is he gonna say tear down this wall? Like it's building up to it. You're like you hear that Reagan's going on a trip to Germany, and you're like, oh shit.
And before this, they kind of have like a bit of to do with the speech writers to be like, well, I don't know, like what are we gonna say? So earlier in the movie, Reagan kind of chastised his main speechwriter guy that camped on his lawn to be like,
Bit of a hippie.
you gotta give me something good to say. Don't sugarcoat it. And so this is where the guy, he really earns his stripes, and he's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's pretty risky. Do you think he's gonna say it? He's gonna say it.
They're like, yeah, he's like, this has to be your best speech you've ever written because, like, the fate of the free world depends on it.
Dewey Cox just walked into the studio, and he's got to sing a song that encapsulates his entire life.
Yeah,
And he's
it's that moment.
Reagan can't do a speech without thinking of his entire life before he goes on stage.
Yeah, honestly, Reagan can't. And he's
I
got to like
fuck
think about
communism.
half of his entire life twice for some reason.
Because he's fucking senile. That's why this movie is incoherent.
While some were fighting in Europe, I was fighting communism in Hollywood. I've been fighting this my whole life.
Fucking hell.
Those bullies, those school bullies, knocked my head around, and then George Lucas started beating me over the head with a lead pipe.
He won't let me be. To this
Listen
day.
up, you son of a bitch. I'm not going to stop. So, yeah, Secretary of State Schultz, he's like, don't fucking do this, you dumb asshole. Like, don't tell Gorbachev
Yeah.
to tear down this wall. Like,
You guys have been such good butt buddies, and you've made him cry. His tears well up with pride when he sees you. Don't ruin all the progress you've made by telling him what to do.
yeah, I mean, it's just, once again, it's just his ego that he wants to satisfy rather than actually make diplomatic strides.
But the way it's framed in the movie is that he actually saves the world with this speech.
Yeah.
Like, this is the hero this is the moment where he gets up there and the entire world's watching again, like every speech he gives. All the Soviet high command is watching, gathered around a table, and they are just and they know after he says those words, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. They know the war is over and the Soviet Union is going to collapse.
You got to give this movie credit where credit's due. It showed restraint in not showing the Berlin Wall just completely crumble
Disintegrate.
behind him while he's delivering this
While
speech.
he's doing a paint job on it.
Here's what I think of your wall, Mr. Gorbachev.
Or else.
Wipe this hiney.
Nancy's not around. I need someone to do it for me.
His Secretary of State, Mr. President, don't do it. You cannot do a paint job. Not Gorbachev. The Russians will not respect it. I'm gonna do it.
So yeah, that was that. The whole world cheers and high fives. We see people in East Berlin. I'm sure this happened. Who were listening to it on car radios and stuff.
Yeah.
They're cheering and whatever.
The main sticking point here is that Reagan's powerful oratory might not have been as responsible for the fall, though. It was more like the economic conditions of the Soviet Union, and like it's collapsing. And,
Are you telling me that Ronald Reagan wasn't single-handedly responsible for the entire collapse of the Soviet Union?
Well, I mean, he was like 98% responsible in real life.
I have a completely smooth brain. Not a single wrinkle in it. And I can tell you without a shadow of doubt, that's what happened.
But I could see my reflection in that brain. It's amazing.
Petrovich, in the chess game of the Cold War, it was checkmate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is Gorbachev at his weepiest when he's watching this speech, too. He's got great mileage out of the tears welling up in his eyes, but now he's truly defeated man.
Yeah, you get a little blip, and there's this weird acoustic version of "Sweet Child of Mine," an instrumental version. I don't know.
Yeah,
what
American
was that?
rock and roll. It's
Yeah,
been
it
brought
finally-
to Germany.
Yeah, they can understand. Finally, now we get Guns N' Roses. We get Axl Rose.
I grew up with this moment being in the consciousness.
Yeah.
I mean, this happened while I was alive, and I was aware of it when it happened. I'm a couple years older than you guys. You guys probably don't remember.
I just
but-
know it from the sound clips and just knowing that it was a moment.
Yeah. I knew he was the one. He was the one who would bring us down. Not with missiles or politics. It was something much greater. People give their lives for one another, for the freedom to live those lives as they chose, and for God. And the Crusader gave it back to them.
Oh, God.
So, 1989, Reagan leaves office. The Berlin Wall falls, and the Soviet Union dissolved in 91.
Yeah, that sounds
Wow.
about right.
Yeah, okay. So,
Did it. He killed Soviet Russia.
now on to the final chapter of Reagan's life.
The twilight years.
Retirement. He's got his ranch hand, John, I think is his name. He's noticing Ron looking at an empty fishbowl with a little White House figure in it.
This used to mean something to me.
It's like, should we be letting him ride horses anymore?
John goes up to Nancy and basically like, I can't fucking in good conscience take this guy out on a horse anymore.
It's like he's been getting lost a lot, man. And she's like, "Are you sure? Is he that bad?" And he's just like staring at a fishbowl.
Yeah.
An empty fish.
He doesn't know what a fucking White House is.
Nancy can't stand to tell him that he can't ride horses anymore. That goes on the head of the Secret Service guy. She's like, you have to tell him that this is going to be his last ride.
There's only one thing Ron likes riding more than me, and that's horses.
Man, I know. There is not a dry eye in the house at
No.
opening night at the theater in this scene.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. In the version
Ronald's
I watched,
last
there's
ride.
barely an eye that's open. This whole time, as all this is going on, just logs being sawed nonstop. Whoever was watching this movie next to the camcorder guy that I got it from.
Well, there's probably the
Having a
midnight
good nap.
screening.
Well,
so-
Mitch and I were hooting and hollering,
yeah.
clapping.
Go,
Singing.
Reagan. Yeah.
So yeah, John goes up and he kind of tells Ron in a roundabout way. He's being like, "Well, maybe we shouldn't. Well, I don't know. What? Just spit it out, John." And he's like, "Well, you can't ride horses anymore. One last ride." Okay, and so they take one last ride, and we get this
Wow.
a cappella sort of weird version of Country Roads Take Me Home.
It's fucked
And I'm like,
up.
"Oh, that sounds like Country Roads Take Me Home." And don't worry, it goes full on into a
Everybody on the ranch stands up and they're watching him through windows and they're all like smiling. They're like, there he goes. There goes Reagan on his last. The sun, it's in just the right spot in the sky as the horse gallops into the sunset, and Reagan's having a great final Hollywood moment.
Yeah.
This song is cheating. I like this song, but it's a fucking hack song to put in your movie.
This is a
and
hack
It's not
scene.
doing any. It is, and this song's just. It's a fucking hacky cheat to put that in because it works on me. God damn it! I don't care if it is a shitty cover version.
It's a good song.
I'm not going to not sing "Country Roads Take Me Home."
Yeah.
I'm not made of stone.
Yeah, you can't not sing along when you hear that song. I don't care who you are.
Yeah, only fitting.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the end. Then we get the end credits. So we see, and over the credits, we see his 2004 state funeral.
Yeah, if you can hear any of it over the thunderous applause in the theater
Yeah.
while this is happening.
We see Thatcher
Yeah.
and Gorbachev and Nancy and others paying their respects. We see Petrovich come running in, tearing his fucking clothes open like a grieving Italian mother, crying.
Bury me with him. Bury me with him.
They had to pry him off his coffin.
We belong together. I've been watching him for so long.
Don't want to live anymore without him. Yeah.
It's like the Joker in Batman, where the Joker can never kill Batman because he'd be nothing without Batman.
Yeah. Weirdly, Bob Dylan offered his song. He's like, hey, how would I put a song in for your
He likes
Reagan movie?
songs?
I don't know. I think he just really likes presidents. He just seems to be obsessed with presidents in some weird way.
Likes
I know.
history.
I know that politically he certainly does not like Reagan. But yeah, he did this "Don't Fence Me In" cover.
Well,
a
that's
Cole Porter song.
A weird thing about this movie, like you said earlier with the Disturbed song, like that song is
the Genesis
Disturbed,
song.
with the Genesis song.
Yeah.
Disturbed did a
I
cover.
listened to the yeah.
like they're kind of critical, especially in that music video of Reagan. So those were like again little things that kind of pinged my satire radar.
Genesis are leftists.
Yeah.
I don't know. By the time Phil Collins was fronting the group, they weren't as radical, but Peter Gabriel and everything, he was heavily critical of Margaret Thatcher and in those days.
Makes sense.
And it continues to be. Yeah. Anyway, weird. And yeah, you got the stupid kid's letter after the credits, which we already discussed.
That's a movie. That's a fucking movie.
What a picture.
Thank you for killing my goldfish, Mr. Reagan. It taught me a great, valuable lesson.
I poured myself a glass of scotch like I've never poured after I fucking watched this movie for the first time. I had to fucking drink one for the Gipper.
For the first time. After you watch this movie for the first time.
Yeah.
I poured one out.
For the first time, and it won't be the last. I'll keep fucking inflicting this on as many people as I can.
Oh yeah,
This is a classic.
It's fun.
yeah.
It's fun, and it's not fun for the reasons the filmmakers thought it would be fun.
No, if you don't agree with this movie's politics, it's one of the
Fuck you.
greatest comedies ever made.
If you agree with this movie politics, it's the greatest movie ever made.
Yeah,
Everybody can like this movie.
it's a win-win.
Reagan's for the children. Oh, wow. I think that about does it for our Republican president 1 year anniversary extravaganza bonanza.
Sincere thank you to all of our listeners who have kept on listening throughout the first year of our podcast.
Please carry on doing so, and why don't you share it with some other low lives you have in your life? Rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff.
So I think we've said almost everything we need to say on this. Do you guys have any brief final thoughts about these pieces of shit?
Oh, it's so hard.
I mean, both really good movies that I enjoyed.
It's really tough. I mean, it's obviously Lincoln. Lincoln is a much better movie for me. I loved the hell out of it. It was just a whole masterclass, top to bottom. It was a cool movie. It kind of lagged a bit at the end. Reagan is something that I didn't know I needed to see until I saw it, though. So I definitely don't feel bad about watching it. I had a blast watching it and talking about it. So check them both out, but check Lincoln out first. And if you don't get around to Reagan, I'll find you. I'll show it to you. Mitch?
Yeah, Lincoln does this historical biopic stuff exactly the way I think it should be done, where it is a lot more focused, it's not far-ranging, and it really is a masterclass, amazing performance. Yeah, maybe one of Daniel Day-Lewis's best performances playing Lincoln. That alone would be enough to recommend the movie. But just everybody's firing on all cylinders. And like we said, just from a technical perspective, a Spielberg movie is always going to have the edge on almost any other kind of movie. Yeah, Reagan, it was a real interesting experience. I didn't know how to take the movie at first. It was shocking to me, and then eventually, as I realized that it was sincere in its approach, it became hilarious to me. It's a really unusual movie, but you're right. It's going to be one that I return to over the years because there is something shocking about it, and in the way it's totally uncritical of Reagan, of its subject matter. It's something to behold. So. But like as a movie, I really liked Lincoln, so I have to give it my vote. I guess Reagan. I don't know. I probably had more fun watching Reagan, but I've seen Lincoln a few times, and actually Lincoln is almost a comfort food movie to me.
It's such a cozy movie to sit and watch, just basking in Daniel Day-Lewis's warmth.
It's underrated how fun it is, too.
Yeah, it was one of those movies where after I got it, I downloaded it on iTunes years ago, and I would just like throw it on at nights for a while and just kind of doze off to it and stuff. So yeah, big thumbs up for Lincoln, but Reagan's kind of a must-see. So...
So Reagan is your pick?
I pick Lincoln, but but Reagan is a must.
You're so unclear with your pick.
It's tough, right? Because like one is obviously a much better movie, but the other one is like fucking. I had a good time watching it.
Yeah, exactly. Luke?
Yeah, I'd say both movies exceeded my expectations in different ways. I'd seen Lincoln before. I remembered liking Tommy Lee Jones's performance in it, and Daniel Day-Lewis, of course. But I connected with a lot of it this time around. All the emotional beats worked on me. I was blown away by it on a technical level. Yeah, it went up a full star rating in my book. But yeah, Reagan, my favorite comedy of the year. I've seen a lot of unhinged conservative kitsch, and this might be A+. It's top tier conservative kitsch. I'd strongly recommend it to anybody, whether you're a conservative or you have a brain.
Bring the family.
Everybody can enjoy this movie. So my vote, even though Lincoln had me almost weeping at times, and I was deeply moved by it, and I think it's a really fabulous movie. My pick is Reagan because I always have to be the outlier.
You heard it here.
You know?
Luke's voting Reagan.
I'm voting
He'd
Reagan.
do it again if he could.
You know what? Here's to another 200 years of Republican presidents, hey?
Hey!
But you know,
yes.
like when you think about it, Lincoln only had to stand up against the Confederacy. Reagan had to stand up against communism in all its evil forms, in all its evil shapes.
So
and
much
forms.
worse and so much more insidious in the American culture is communism. This
imagined enemy.
You can never really put your finger on just what exactly it is, but I don't like it.
Communism's like water. You try to grip it and it just slips through your fingers.
I can't tell them apart. I mean, some people enslave other humans and rape them and steal all their profits and labor. And the other ones
want to control the means of production.
These other ones actually just want health insurance.
The greatest evil.
They're the same. I can't tell the difference.
Since slavery.
Are we supposed to foot the bill every time a grip falls off a ladder and breaks his back?
I don't want to be a slave to the health industry. I want to be free. That's what Reagan gave the people.
So here's to freedom.
Freedom.
Vonn, what are we talking about next week?
All right. So I don't want to totally leave American-Russian relations behind, American USSR relations behind. So we're going to gently ease out of this political divide and talk about some hockey movies.
Sweet.
We're going to talk about Miracle. That's the Kurt Russell movie where the American hockey team has to go up against the Soviet hockey team.
Yes,
Do you believe in miracles?
And then we're going to talk about Youngblood, a 1986 movie starring, welcome back to the pod, Rob Lowe, and welcome Patrick Swayze.
Back.
Welcome back. Oh shit, yeah, welcome back both of you
and
outsiders.
Swayze?
Yeah.
Man,
Wow.
we're Swayze crazy.
We're Swayze crazy. So until next time, when we're going to talk about some hockey movies, this has been High and Low. Thanks for listening. I'm Vonn.
I'm Mitchell.
I'm Luke.
Smell you later.
Nice.
The end of the Reagan era. I'm like Lemma 12, old enough to understand the shit had changed forever. They declared the war on drugs, like a war on terror. But what it really did was let the police terrorize whoever.
Ronald Wilson Reagan.